Jonathan Taylor, there he goes again. 50, 40, down the far sideline. He might do it again. 10, 5, touchdown. I-N-D-Y.
The Eastern Conference Championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
David Rosenquist, he wins the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Well, future Tuesdays, each of the next two to be specific, will take us up to Westfield, Indiana, 1 week from today. Report day for the Indianapolis Colts. The Tuesday after that will be, we might be about a half dozen practices in to Grand Park. But for today, we are in studio, and we're back together. Mark Dykton back from a little time away. So good Tuesday morning to you, and thank you for starting your day with us. I'm Kevin Bowen, James Boyd alongside, and like we mentioned, Mark is back. Mr. Dykton, good morning, sir.
Good morning, boys. How we doing?
Safe travels to and fro?
Safe travels, long as always, but enjoyable. Family time, always a good time. So good to see everybody down in Florida.
Now, you didn't get home, right? Did he get home at 3 a.m. this time, or was it a more reasonable arrival?
More like 3 in the afternoon. So,
Okay.
Bucky's over under a half a stop?
Apparently we stopped a couple times. I was sleeping a couple of them. Ashley and I switched off driving. So she drove through two of them in Georgia, and then the last one that we stopped at was Kentucky. That was the one I was awake for.
Gosh, I got a little nervous there when you said you were apparently. I was a little rattled there.
I was loopy. I don't know.
I was gonna say, what are we munching on in the car?
Yeah,
I wish.
I got a little nervous there. Well, great to have you back, and thank you to Christian. You did a nice job filling in for Mark with him back. We'll get
a lot less back talk with Christian, so I appreciated that.
Reality's hitting in today. Let me let you know that right now.
We'll get back into our Summer What If series coming up 9 o'clock today. And again, we got more NFL teams reporting to training camp today. Warren Sharp is going to join us. You big analytical guy when it comes to the NFL? I mean, Warren Sharp's like the nth degree of it.
I would say some of the stuff that he puts out I always find interesting because it usually identifies a trend that maybe I'm not privy to. So I definitely like his work, and I think that when we talk to him later today, a lot of our listeners will appreciate what he has to say.
Yeah, Sharp Football for those out there. I think, if you are an NFL fan, I assume you've come across his work a time or two. So, yeah, he's going to join us coming up at 9 when we get into our what if scenario today. Joel A. Erickson going to join us coming up at 9:30. So looking forward to that. A little bit of Pacers news yesterday. Nothing too crazy, but we'll hit that. And, Mark, one thing we've started here with the Colts, honestly probably fits you. We've decided to do our nicest and meanest thing we can say about each Colts position group.
How many nice ones have you done so far?
We are through the quarterback and the running back position. So for each position group, you have to say something nice and you have to say something mean. So it may be a little counterintuitive to how you want to parent. Christian came up with the compliment sandwich. That's what we've been handing out here.
Give a compliment, give a criticism, then give another compliment. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know if we have time for the second compliment, and I don't know if maybe some positions merit the second compliment.
Well, a sandwich is 2 loaves of bread.
Hey, look,
so if you're not
man,
giving the second comment, the meat is falling out
See
of the
what
bottom.
I mean? I told you already. The
But
back talk.
Nowadays, Mark, people are saying no to the bun.
That ain't a sandwich then. Just you're holding meat in your hand.
Well, welcome back. By the way, did I see you had a lot of Taco Bell?
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah, I will not slander the good name of Taco Bell. Let us be damned. It ain't TB's fault.
So if I see you sprinting down the hallway today, I know full well what the culprit is.
I'll let you know. So far, so good. They said, well, explosive diarrhea could happen. I'm like, that's a day that ends in Y with Taco Bell.
Oh, my gosh.
Nothing's changed. Nothing's different.
We will get into
How will I know I have it?
Colts items here on this Tuesday morning. We did have an IndyCar race yesterday. Hell, they could race any day of the week. They could race probably in any country. And Alex Palou is always a safe bet for that one. Held off Joseph Newgarden and David Malukas down there in a crowd that unfortunately reminded me a bit of COVID. So definitely did not enjoy seeing that. But nonetheless, 5th win of the year for Mr. Palou. And James, you were over at Fever practice yesterday. Anything noteworthy?
I thought it was cool that they did their yearly Special Olympics signing. So they had 5 Special Olympics basketball players come and sign a one-day contract with the team. So those 5 ladies definitely enjoyed that. And then as far as a newsworthy standpoint regarding the team, Caitlin Clark, will you change your ways? You're close to being suspended. No. There you have it. I should have followed up. I actually thought her press conference or media scrum got cut kind of short. She only talked for about 3 minutes yesterday. It's usually a little bit longer than that. But I think the next time she gets one, I'm just going to ask her, like, hey, by the way, do you just expect to get suspended? Have you accepted that? Because I know she's telling us one thing, but I do wonder internally, Kevin, if that's a conversation she has to have with herself and the staff has to have with her, because I get and I actually respect the defiance of I'm going to be me no matter what. But is there a part of her that's like, that might hurt my team? And I get that some of the responses from fans and people are like, well, she has a back injury. She's got to sit some games anyway, yada, yada, yada. But like when you have the back injury, you choose which game you sit. Who's to say she doesn't get suspended possibly later this season when you're fighting for home court advantage in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I respect her level of I don't know if I respect her defiance to be me when it's going to be a detriment to the team. I mean, that to me is taking it way too far. I don't follow that one at all. She can have passion, she can play with energy, but when it's costing your team a game,
right, and that's where I kind of draw the line. Yeah,
that's where I don't really follow her line of thinking. So she cut it short, or just was short?
It just was short. I don't want to blame her and act like it was some big deal, but she was pretty short yesterday and wanted to play basketball, which is what she's paid to do. So I understand that. We did follow up on the back. Hey, by the way, do you feel better, or how do you feel coming out of your first back-to-back in 2 years? Her response was, I feel good, great. And that was it.
It's a little short. Yeah, I'd say short and sweet, but maybe it doesn't sound so sweet. Maybe just a short Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, I mean, other responses, we were asking her about shoe colorways and Kelsey Mitchell, and you get a longer response there, but completely disinterested in talking about her back or her technical fouls. So we'll see what both bring come Wednesday, which is their last game against the Sun before the All-Star break.
We will have one more game, like you said, coming up tomorrow night for the Fever. That's the Connecticut Sun. They're not very good at basketball, so the Fever will try to close things out here.
Well, that means Caitlin's going to go for 40 and 10 again.
Continuing on their winning ways. Yeah, hey, if it's anything like the Seattle Storm over the weekend. Mark, I almost texted you. I guess I texted you about that SmackDown that's coming. That's a Friday in September. And you said that's not like a huge deal on the WWE event calendar?
No, it's their regular weekly show on Friday nights. But yeah, good to see him stop in Indy again.
What did you make of Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson? Now, this is a couple of times we've seen them interact in a WWE setting, correct?
Yeah, they had Saturday night's main event in Madison Square Garden. So, of course, Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns in attendance and part of the show. And then, Tyrese Halliburton maybe doing a little heel action as he came out to the Nick Heavy crowd.
I believe
I liked it, though. I loved it.
Saying to Jalen Brunson, you can't beat me. I think referencing maybe his absence last year, contributing to the Knicks having an easier path.
And that tells me that
the finals.
Pacers-Knicks is back. Like, that should be the rivalry. That should be the opening night game on the 2026-2027 NBA calendar. You got WWE. They see Tyrese and Jalen. That's a good, dichotomy. Make that happen.
Yeah,
what are we waiting for?
Yeah, I've thought opening night or at the very least Christmas.
Christmas, yes.
I think that would make a whole lot of sense as well there. But yeah, Tyrese Halliburton was making his somewhat regular appearance on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. Mentioned that he continues to be in very good health. Said the eye still a little impacted, shingles related there. So a little bit of a nerve thing, and it's very itchy eye, but that really was it from a somewhat, I guess, negative or questionable health update. Says he feels great. And again, we're still several months away from things getting real. This is about to be the quietest time of the NBA calendar. Should get a schedule in August. Training camp still over, probably 2 months away? Isn't it kind of late September for those?
Yeah.
So good news, I think, on the Halliburton front, exactly where his availability is there. So yes, was it him and Seth Rollins or him and Roman Reigns?
Brunson was with Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins and Tyrese were together, which is interesting how they're trying to basically make Rollins the heel in this, where I think it's more Reigns, but because they had Jalen Brunson in the house and he got the invite from Roman Reigns, they did that. But interesting.
What do you guys make of the what if that we will get into later today? We're going to back into a Colts what if scenario here on this Tuesday morning as we kind of get to the end of our summer series here. We'll put this on hiatus once we get to Colts training camp, but have enjoyed it. What do you guys make of today's what if?
Well, I thought our series was, since we're having Joel on, was what if the Brewers collapse in the NL Central? That's not what we're doing.
I think that's Haley's comments. Though.
Oh, okay.
I think that
7 games up, is that right?
I don't know what it is these days.
Mark just came back hating. That's all you need to know, Kevin. I will say, I think that it's an interesting twist on a common question that we talk about, or a common what if that we go through, seems like on a year-to-year basis with this team.
Yeah, it is a what if that in some lights, the situation that played out in reality, some people are very content with it. Oh yeah, it worked out just fine. Like, we don't need to provide a hypothetical, but then, it does involve Chris Ballard. And Chris Ballard has mentioned this as not this specific thing, but indirectly, he's talked about this being a bigger reason why the Colts are currently in the state that they are in right now, which is, again, 5 years without a playoff appearance, one of the longest current droughts in the entire NFL. And, I don't believe it was pondered too heavily at the time, but, I think that's where things could be a whole lot different for his tenure.
I think it's an interesting and it's an interesting spin on what I think a lot of people figure would be one of our topics, but the way we're approaching it, I feel like, is an interesting spin on it, because Chris Ballard still brings it up to this day about the effect it had, and we'll kind of, go through the ways that maybe they could have avoided some of these pratfalls.
Well, and it's also not that far-fetched, which I think is important to reiterate when we get into things. Like, every fan, or a lot of fans, I should say, play the trade machine game, or, we could have had this player, we could have done that trade, we could have signed this free agent, we could have drafted that player. And a lot of these are just super unrealistic, or frankly, again, Haley's comment type stuff here. But this one was like, well, not that too crazy, especially when you see what happened after the Colts would have potentially made their pick back in that draft. So we'll hit on that here on this Tuesday morning. Again, Warren Sharp, NFL analyst, he's going to join us coming up at 9 o'clock. He's got a season preview out that is, to say it is in depth would be a disservice to the phrase in depth. I was scrolling through his Colts section the other day. Super informative on exactly, and really, he looks at it from all sides of it. Optimistically, not so optimistically, just a lot of interesting tidbits there. So we'll chat with Warren coming up at 9 o'clock.
Do he and Dane Brugler get together and debate who has the biggest word count?
Boy, that's a great question. Yeah, because Warren's is, I think it's a very similar page count there. Yeah, those two dudes are cut from the same cloth.
I was going to say Control F, Control Find usually helps me out in those scenarios.
Yeah, I'm just like, this is old me and shows you my age here. I'm just thinking, can you imagine? What if you lost that entire document?
I know.
What if the floppy disk didn't work?
I remember floppy disks. I am old enough to have used one.
I would just play with the floppy disk. I just thought it was a cool thing to slide that little, whatever that thing was, back and forth.
Kevin like playing with his disc, everybody.
Mark is back.
What?
Look at the look on his face. I wish you all in your cars could see the disgust on Kevin's face.
Just reiterating what you just said.
Kevin, do we need some more maturity behind the glass here?
No, maturity. I'm just talking. We're supposed to re-educate the listeners.
Now, I would assume you have some compliments towards Aaron Rodgers and seemingly mending fences with his family here. I saw some pictures with Aaron Rodgers and his family.
Has he? I haven't seen any of that.
Yes.
I heard you guys a little bit while we were driving back yesterday, and you were discussing like if I would have any, feelings of enjoyment of Aaron Rodgers, and I yelled at the radio. I said, absolutely not.
Well, a shout out to Aaron Rodgers. Looks like him and his family potentially back on nice ground. So
he's gonna get that Thanksgiving invite then.
Talk about
Christmas morning.
Nice maturity, and growth is always there, and reconnection's always there.
You asking about Aaron Rodgers is like what I heard you say about Bryson DeChambeau over the weekend.
I think the meanest thing I said about the quarterback position was I trust that group to stay healthy and be consistent for 17 games as much as I trust the internet history of Mark Dykton.
This is true. I was here when he said it.
Well, you want to come back here and see what I've been searching?
No, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be part of your explosive potential on the backside.
I feel
here
great, by the
later
way.
today.
I feel I could eat
Well,
more Taco Bell
It's
today.
7:15 in the morning. Talk to us here in a few hours. We are back together, clearly. Kevin Bowe and James Boyd, Mark Dykton on to Tuesday. Thank you for spending it with us. Indoor and outdoor concrete. That is Galaxy Concrete Coatings. Garages, basements, patios, porches, and sidewalks. You can contact them today. I would start by visiting their website. I think it'll be key to just see, okay, what do they have to offer us? And does it make sense for our home, for our workplace, whatever you're looking for? Patios, certainly something they specialize in a whole lot. We got a new sidewalk, new front porch put in a couple summers ago, and we're thrilled. I mean, we wanted no part of being outside on that front porch. Prior to that, our home about 100 years old, and let's just say the concrete looked that old. But now we're thrilled with the results and very, very happy with how it looks. Manufacturers upgrade the warranty from 15 years to lifetime, so that should rest any sort of worry on that front. Again, it's indoor and it's outdoor concrete, garages, basements, patios, porches, and sidewalks. Head to galaxyconcretecoatings.com today and make sure you come home a very happy camper.
Checked Out. Brought to you by Bet365 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Well, we had an IndyCar race yesterday. Not too many times we talk about an IndyCar race on a Monday, but we did down in Nashville. And sure enough, Alex Palou held off a couple of Penske drivers in Joseph Newgarden and David Malukas to get that done. I thought, honestly, Newgarden was going to catch him there, kind of the oval master, but he did not. So the fifth win for Palou. Shout out to David Malukas, though. His weekend started off with a crash that sent him for medical evaluation, and yet he had a great chance to drive through the field and almost get that victory. So now a little bit of break for IndyCar before they have an extremely, extremely busy month of August and September. Indiana Fever back to practice again today. Their final game coming up of the first half of the season, if you will, against the Connecticut Sun. No Kelsey Mitchell at practice yesterday?
No, personal reasons according to the team. So I'll be over there again today after the show to provide any other updates. Hopefully everything is good with Kelsey and her family, of course.
So again, the Sun coming up. It's an 8 o'clock tip per usual.
The Sun coming up.
Wow. I didn't even mean to do that. I
You're a natural.
Yeah, it's still a little hazy outside. I don't even know if the sun is coming up here on this Tuesday morning. All-Star break this weekend for the Fever. We await to see what additional activities Fever players will be taking part in up there in Chicago. Have the Red Sox really won 14 straight, Mark?
Is that what it is?
Gosh, what a run.
I know.
Can you imagine your team won 4? I mean, I guess the Cubs won what? Didn't they win 10 in a row earlier this year?
2 different 10-game winning streaks, yeah.
Did not win last night, though?
No. Tied it in the 9th and then lost it in extras, which I did not stay up for.
Lost to the Tigers 8-6. Cardinals lose the Angels. Reds shut out by the Mariners. They stink. They are horrible. White Sox over the Rangers. Boy, what a week for the Indianapolis Indians, Mark. You think more people will attend Marvel Night on Saturday or Paw Patrol on Sunday?
Oh, Paw Patrol, I think.
Really? Wow.
Paw Patrol still runs deep, yeah.
Well, it makes sense. I told you, Lamine Yamal's younger brother had the Paw Patrol hat on at the World Cup final. So imagine how good that advertising was for that company.
Boy, huge.
Kid was
Rebel,
everywhere.
Sky.
Mm-hmm. New movies coming out like in a week or two.
I saw that, yeah. I mean, you imagine Marshall in the outfield? Oh,
I know.
Man.
Well, I was there in person for Bluey a couple of years ago, and that was insane.
Have that line down to Lucas Oil.
I know.
Indianapolis Indians back at home if you couldn't follow that here. Lehigh Valley starting today, announced yesterday, IU and Arkansas going to play basketball. So who says Coach Cal won't schedule Indiana?
It's still so weird to see him there.
Site for this one. It'll be in Madison Square Garden coming up. Arkansas, by all accounts, preseason top 15-ish team. So pretty quality opponent here in the non-conference. So Indiana, not etched in stone yet, their full non-conference schedule for Darren DeVries' second year. But Arkansas here in MSG, they will play Kentucky at Lucas Oil, Syracuse at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and then a rumor of hosting Missouri, some of their notable non-conference teams. I did see they are in Peru. Mark, let's try and get Jeff Rabjohns on maybe this week. I believe Rabby is down there in Peru as they will play. I think it's tonight, their first game at 6. For the diehards out there, I'm sure you can find some YouTube stream to watch it, but there's been kind of some vague details on exactly when and how many games they're going to play and all of that. But it looks like Darren DeVries and company, as they rep Team USA, will be down there for their foreign tour. Purdue going to be up in Canada later this week. I saw Michael Scotto, NBA reporter, reported that Taylon Peters been waived by the Pacers. You surprised at all by that?
No, I was not, Kevin. I thought that with basically one two-way spot left and Jalen Slauson balling out in Summer League, that spot would be his. And so we're one step closer to kind of solidifying the roster for the regular season opener.
You like Slauson over Ethan Thompson for that spot?
I do. I think the size and positional versatility is what intrigues me. 6'8" wing, can handle it a little bit. Handle has to get better, I think, but thought he showed some pretty good scoring chops in Summer League. Like I said, defensively, he offers some versatility. So, and also he's just athletic. and I don't think you can necessarily teach that or give that to another player. So if I got to take a flyer on somebody, give me the big wing.
Yeah, Sloss had a great summer league. There's no denying that. Now, if they want to balance out their two ways, they already have Kobe Brown. So is that a little too redundant? Him and Jalen Sloss in there. I think that would be a question. Whereas if you had Ethan Thompson, it's a little bit more balance to the three spots with Braden Smith thought to be a two-way guy, Thompson more of an off guard, and then Kobe Brown. But we'll see how all of that plays out. Reminder: the Pacers do have an open roster spot, standard contract wise. We chatted with this about Tony East in the 9 o'clock hour yesterday. I think it's smart just leave that open. Inevitably, you're gonna have some injuries. You're gonna have players that don't show a lot. Who knows what happens with Furphy coming off the ACL. I think it's smart to kind of leave that open. So again, not a lot on the Pacers front here. Thought to be upcoming, but we will see how all of that plays out. Reminder, it is Brickyard 400 week. I'm trying to look early weather-wise. I don't think it's supposed to be like piping hot the next few days. Maybe warming up once we get to Sunday here. But good news for a crowd over there. You're not competing, State Fair, Colts training camp, things like that. So reminder, we're back on the Oval again after 3 years on the road course. We had Michael McDowell on last week. Enjoyed that conversation. Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, your last two winners since we've moved back to the Oval there. So I believe it's 2 o'clock, the green flag coming up on Sunday for that. All right, on the other side, what is our latest in our Summer What If series? We'll do that. We're a week out from training camp, so plenty of current Colts conversation to sprinkle in on this Tuesday morning as well. And it was a short Caitlin Clark yesterday in some of her answers over at Fever Practice. We'll get James's thoughts more on that and what those topics were. We'll do that upcoming as well. Good Tuesday morning to you. Thank you for spending it with us right here on The Fan.
We are tracking a very warm and humid day across central Indiana. Scattered showers and thunderstorms will be around at times. A strong gusty storm cannot be ruled out with a high near 87 degrees. I'm Fox 59 meteorologist Amber Hardwick for The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Coming up at 9, we'll have Warren Sharp join the show. He is, I would say, a pretty big name in kind of the NFL media world, certainly known for his analytical breakdowns, and he's got a huge season preview out. I scrolled through the Colts section that he had of that, and it is quite in-depth, quite enlightening, and honestly, I laugh because I just finished what is probably the longest piece that I do each year. Just posted it to the website. 53 questions on the Colts entering training camp. Actually, this year I threw in a bonus. I'd like to say that I was trying to throw in a bonus, but I actually counted wrong. I ended up having 54 questions instead of 53, so I just said 54, parentheses, bonus. So, yes, 53 Colts questions up on the site. So,
Mark, what nerd do you know turns in extra work?
Oh, buddy.
Come on, man.
The son of two teachers.
Yeah, but I mean, didn't teacher teach you how to count? Come on, man.
Here, teacher, I thought you'd like Morse to read for me.
He was the kid, you know, we get to that Monday morning and everybody's open their backpack. You're like, dang, I forgot that homework at home on Friday. It's crumpled up somewhere in this bag. And he's like, hey, collect the homework.
I did so much good work. I think you should read more of it.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate a click from each of you if you don't mind. And maybe if there's a
course,
question or two that stands out to you, we can kind of get into that throughout the rest of the week here.
Who do you think you are is my first question with your extra work.
1 week from today, the Colts will head up to Grand Park. Again, that will be Westfield for their final training camp up there. It's interesting, James. I've had a lot of people ask me, like, oh, aren't they back at their own facility this year? It's like, no. They got one more year in Westfield.
Right.
So
don't kick us out just yet.
Again, starting next Tuesday will be report day. Then they'll go morning practices Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. I believe they have a Saturday session as well.
Yep.
And
then
then
that afternoon.
That following week, they'll practice in the morning Monday, Tuesday. After that, I think they're almost done with the morning practices. So it's a lot of morning early at Grand Park, which, you know, some kids, you know, could benefit if you're not in school just yet. I know the Dykens go back very, very soon, whereas the Bowens are more of like the second week of August.
Wait, when do your kids go back to school, Mark?
Well, I think next Wednesday.
Whoa, I think we have this conversation every year, so I won't harp on it anymore. But school in July just sounds like a sin. But continue.
It does. We got to do back to school shopping like this week. I'm like, you guys are back.
I know we disagree about a lot, you know, and we agree about a lot in this country, but I think we should come together and agree that school should not start in July.
Did you get 2 weeks for fall break or a week for fall break?
Well, that's why they go back so early, I guess, because they get 2 weeks of fall break and they get 2 weeks of spring break.
See, that's
which
the
I'm like,
problem.
I'd rather just have the
What's
1
your
week.
Thanksgiving? Just like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Yeah, but I'm like, I'd rather just have the extra 2 weeks of summer vacation, and then you're going back like mid-August or something.
Right. Yeah. So like a week during the year for the couple of the breaks, and then a regular summer.
The sleep schedules get all thrown off after the second week at that point. So I'm like, they don't need 2 weeks of fall break. You don't need 2 weeks of spring break.
Yeah,
Get back to school.
We're entering that right now of like, oh, wow, we need to start planning better around fall. And like now my PTO, I feel like I need to be using that very strategically.
Yeah.
Like around fall break.
No, legit, you have to.
And spring break. So after that, though, those early morning practices at Grand Park, it's a lot of weekend days. So they should garner some good crowds there, especially in the month of August with that. So we'll definitely hit on some more pertinent Colts topics as we get closer here to Grand Park. But Mark, let's get into our latest here in our summer What If series as we dabble back into the Indianapolis Colts.
There goes Artest up into the crowd. He's absolutely out of his mind.
But I am going to retire. This is not an easy decision.
It's Hayward pulling it down. At midcourt, launches the shot. Oh, it almost went in.
After the occurrence yesterday with Josh backing out.
Halliburton falls down. He looks hurt.
The Indiana Fever select Caitlin Clark.
What if I told you?
You see Andrew Luck on the sidelines. There is a report that has been filed by Adam Schefter of ESPN that Andrew has informed the team of his desire to retire from the National Football League.
This certainly isn't how I envisioned this or planned this. but I am going to retire. This is not an easy decision. Honestly, it's the hardest decision of my life.
We had the youngest team in football, and then when Andrew retired, it kind of changed the dynamic.
The Colts drafted a quarterback the year after Andrew Luck retired.
Now, if you had told me walking into Lucas Oil Stadium on that Saturday, August evening, that Greg Rakestraw's voice sounded like that, I would have told you something crazy was about to happen. I didn't know Rake's voice sounded like that.
Yeah.
Man, get the man some tea.
Going through the archives, I was listening to that. I'm like, man, yeah, he seems like he's like, I don't know how to approach this thing, trying to call a preseason game.
I mean, that's a black cat on Friday the 13th right there, hearing Rake's voice sound like that.
I know.
We could go a lot of ways with Andrew Luck and that retirement. We kind of put our very mediocre brains together and thought this was, I would say, one of the more realistic, debatable scenarios with this. And that is Andrew Luck retires in August of 2019. Jacoby Brissett becomes the starting quarterback. They go through that season 7-9. They end that year with the 13th overall pick. So for us in this what if, it's not what if Andrew Luck had not retired. No. Andrew Luck is retired. But what if the Colts had then drafted a quarterback right away? Right away in that 2020 draft. And James, you came on the beat in what year?
2022, the Jeff Saturday year. I'll never forget it.
Well, Friday the 13th, Black Cat, and all of a sudden James Boyd now. Maybe we can blame him for all that.
No, I can't. You all have seen what has happened the last half decade I've been here. I can't take the blame for this. I'll take the blame for my golf swing and for a couple of mistakes here on the show, but that, you ain't putting that on me.
So, to me, this gets into a conversation that I want to make sure we preface by starting here. In sport fandom debates, we have so many unrealistic roster move, hypothetical trades, so many Pacers fans, bring up, well, Paul George said we could have got Anthony Davis. Well, okay, what is really validity in all of this?
Right.
But for me, James, it was widely debated in that first offseason after Andrew Luck. How should you approach it?
Right.
Should you try to go short-term Band-Aid, or should you think about the long-term future of your franchise? They elected to trade the 13th overall pick for DeForest Buckner. That was the move that they went with. I'm trying to think in subsequent drafts. I want to say like Jacob Eason might have been the only real quarterback draft pick of any note in the top 5 rounds. And again, Eason was picked 100-something in round 4. So even I don't think he would qualify. And as I guess fate would have it, that draft, the 2020 draft, ended up being one of the best quarterback drafts we have seen in quite some time. You had Joe Burrow go 1. You had Tua go 5, Justin Herbert 6, and just to remind everybody, the Colts had the 13th pick. And then later in the first round, you had Jordan Love going 26th overall to the Green Bay Packers, and you had Jalen Hurts going 53rd overall to the Philadelphia Eagles. So as you looked back on this what if, what was popping into that brain of yours?
I think for me, Kevin, as I kind of sat with it for a while, it's realizing that in the short term, it looked like they made the right decision because they signed Phillip Rivers, correct?
Yes.
Went to the playoffs
right
the next year. And so you're probably thinking, okay, well, this stopgap we found is probably a little bit more than that. We have a borderline potential Hall of Famer stepping in here, taking us to the playoffs. And granted, they didn't win a playoff game, but they had a fairly respectable showing against Buffalo. And you can probably fill in some of the gaps here, Kevin, because where it gets fuzzy for me because I wasn't here on the ground. But after that sort of season, you're probably thinking we're in a fairly decent spot after our franchise quarterback walked away. So maybe we didn't need to draft a quarterback. We found our answer already. And is it the longest long-term answer? No. But at the same time, I kind of always laugh at, oh, wait, that was only 1 year. So, yeah, that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind for me is like, wait, you were right. And then you were quickly kind of wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think how I've described Band-Aid quarterbacks, to me, oftentimes it's like rocking a Band-Aid when you jump into a pool. It's probably not going to have a lot of sustainability long term for you. And you just brought that up. Like in the short term, they did make the playoffs. I mean, hell, they were very competitive. I easily could have won that game. Josh Allen was terrific in that COVID playoff game in Buffalo there. But then Philip Rivers retires. So now you're back to virtually the same thing.
Yep.
And so what did that lead to? First and third round picks for Carson Wentz. Well, we saw how that went. What did that lead to? That led to Matt Ryan. Like, so when you get in the Band-Aid rabbit hole, like Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, those are the anomalies. You know, these retread quarterbacks moving to different teams.
Yeah.
And so I know hindsight sounds 2020, but I was a huge fan of right away. You need to go back and draft a quarterback.
I guess, and why were you so adamant about
because
that stance?
I'm just a believer, and that's how you have to build an NFL contender. You know, I've said many, many times, to me, the goal, I think, in building some sort of team is, can you create the 5 to 7 year window?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not going to be perfect right away. I'm a big believer in you need playoff experience before you reach the top of the mountain. And so you need multiple chances. You need as many darts at the dartboard as you can.
Right.
And so if you're able to create that, like Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo, you know, those teams currently, I think eventually you'll either knock the door down or that will be your best shot at knocking the door down.
Right.
It took Peyton Manning 6 years to win a playoff game, took him 9 years to win a Super Bowl. You know, kind of that sort of feel to it. Whereas Band-Aids, I just think it's so hard to try and actually build something. I was thinking about this too, Mark, when we decided on this. You remember, I think it was the year before James joined us. You remember we had Ballard on at the Combine, and the question was, and maybe you can dig up this audio. I should have told you before the show. Maybe we can play it around 8:30 or so. You remember the question was just, why do you feel like you haven't gotten it done? You know, like we are now, I think at that point we are 7 or 8 years into the Ballard thing. And I thought he was pretty candid with the answer, really boiling down to, I haven't gotten quarterback right. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit. If you can find the audio, that would be great. But this what if for me, James, is that answer. Ballard saying, I haven't gotten quarterback right. I look at this situation, and again, realistically, which I think is really important, I look at it and think, if you are drafting a Jordan Love, if you are drafting a Jalen Hurts, what does the last 6 years look like for you? Maybe you still sign Philip Rivers.
Right.
Because, again, if you want to play this out, they traded for Buckner just after the Combine.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the free agency season occurs before the draft. So let's say they don't trade for Buckner. They sign Rivers. You do the Rivers thing for a year. It's COVID. In an ideal world, you probably sit your rookie quarterback anyways.
Right.
And then do you pass that torch from Rivers to a Love to a Hurts? And now, what does the rest of this tenure look like? That is the big question that I would have. Now, there are other questions off of this. DeForest Buckner has been a very good player for you. Very good player. So what does your defense look like? Also in the last 6 years.
That's fair.
Do you make the playoffs in 2020? They got the last playoff spot in 2020. They made the postseason by 1 game. Under this scenario, you're drafting a quarterback, but you're probably not starting that quarterback right away. Do you still make it without Buckner? And then what does that do, you know, of this evaluation period of your franchise? Now, again, is that a little short-term, who cares, because you're going to have long-term gain, because you're going to have the quarterback position settled here? But to me, it's a realistic debate because we're talking about the 13th overall pick. Hell, they could have traded back and taken Love or Hurts.
Right.
You know, Hurts was what, 53rd overall?
You are
Something like
correct.
that? Love was 26. If I remember correctly, Green Bay traded up then to get Love there. So those are a couple other thoughts that I've had and kind of looking back on this.
Another one that comes to mind is, like, how much pressure do you think was on Chris Ballard to deliver immediately? Do you think, like, the immediacy of the retirement from Andrew Luck, not force his hand, but kind of ignited we got to win like right now.
Yeah. I'm sure there was some big
because your team was built right
emotion.
for like to win immediately in theory.
Yeah, you had just had the 2018 season in which you had won a playoff game.
Right.
Again, this gets into how the weirdness of Luck retiring.
Yeah, it was crazy.
By all accounts,
he had a great season.
And he loved playing for Frank Reich, you know, by all accounts. So, yeah, I think it was which is interesting because I've always thought Ballard is a little bit more of a long-term vision. I mean, hell, he's gotten a decade at it. Like, to me, I think everyone in the organization, and I'm particularly talking about Jim Irsay, would have understood if you had a little bit of a mini reset. Now, again, play this out. If you sign Phillip Rivers, it's not a hard reset.
Right.
Yes, you aren't trading for Buckner, and again, there's no way for me to say this without it coming as a slight to Buckner, but like, he's been a great, great player. What has it got you?
Yeah.
You know, that's just the difficulty of when these other positions all of a sudden become the marquee draft pick here, and you just don't reap those same benefits here. Yeah, texture here. This is a good one today. I've wanted Ballard fired since the moment they traded that pick. Ryan, he points to the Carson Wentz. Chris Ballard should have been fired after the Wentz trade because that's what it led to. You know, again, Rivers, surprisingly, by a lot of people, only played 1 year. I think there was a thought, a hope that he played 2.
Yeah.
And then you got in the Wentz situation, and then you got in the Matt Ryan situation. Then eventually, James, you obviously popped up on the beat, and sooner or later you had to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
And then you get in the Anthony Richardson situation. I think so much of it comes down to just a little bit of a philosophical thing from Ballard of, I go back to his opening day press conference where, you know, he said it's not about one player. It's not about one player. He tried to kind of downplay quarterback. I think that when I sat there at that press conference, I thought to myself, boy, is that his real belief or is that a PR thought? Like sometimes we hear this with the Fever, like they don't necessarily want to say like everything's about Caitlin Clark, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, do you really mean that? Or are you just saying that because you want to be respectful to Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston?
I was going to say respectfully, 22 showed up and they made the playoffs for the first time in 8 years.
And I don't know if that's a perfect analogy, but like, I think for sometimes with coaches, you do have to play a little bit of that game just publicly.
Yeah.
And so when Ballard said that, I'm like, do you really mean that? Or
I would venture to say that's more of a PR answer. And then I think
his actions have played out that way, though. That's why, again, you can say that, but if you don't mean that, then you do say, hey, I understand we feel like we've got a little bit of a team here that can do something, but guys, it's quarterback in the NFL. And if we're sitting there with the 13th pick, and they looked into Jordan Love, and there was debates about Jalen Hurts, then you have to go down that path. I'm just such a believer in the rookie contract quarterback is the route that you have to go if you want to build a true championship type of, you know, handful year window.
I'll throw this in there too, Kevin. I get what you're saying where it's like, well, it's kind of played out where he hasn't really made the commitment to the quarterback or perhaps hasn't done it soon enough. But I think part of the issue when it comes to looking at it probably in hindsight is just not realizing how long it could possibly take. I mean, if you would have told Chris Ballard a decade ago, hey, by the way, after your franchise quarterback walks away, you probably need to get on this and kind of figure it out. Maybe his actions look a lot differently because of just every scenario since then. It's not to make excuses for him because he's had enough of those. He's had a million tries, it seems like, and much more than what a normal GM would have. But to play devil's advocate a little bit, I mean, every person that he did kind of appoint the position to, ideally, they would be there a little bit longer than they were. Even Matt Ryan, he fell off a cliff as soon as he joined the Colts.
See, I think that's a difficulty in the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Is that you have these, you know, in Ryan's case and Rivers' case, it was more of just age.
Yep.
In Wentz's case, it was just, you know, a little bit of the Frank Reich thing you probably fell into, thinking you could resurrect that project. And, I would say there's kind of one other branch we can get into off of this, but if you look at that draft, so again, they traded the 13th pick for DeForest Buckner. They drafted Michael Pittman Jr. and Jonathan Taylor that year. I mean, those are two very good draft picks. So the devil's advocate would say, let's say you keep the 13th pick, okay? And whatever, you trade back 10 spots and you draft Jordan Love. Are you then coming back and taking Pittman and Taylor?
Yeah.
Taylor, when you look back on that pick, it was almost treated a little bit luxury-like. We've all seen the video of Jim Irsay kind of saying, hey, you've liked this guy a lot throughout.
Yeah.
They traded up, I think it was like 5 spots, 3 spots, something like that, to then take Taylor in the middle of round 2. My question would be, does Pittman or Taylor become a defensive tackle? If you wouldn't have gotten Buckner, do you then kind of slot, hey,
yeah, that's a good point.
We need a defensive need? And that might shift some people's thinking.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. I think if you get the quarterback, Kevin, you still are able to maybe have a clearer vision as to what you want to be. For example, the Bengals, and I know they made it to the Super Bowl, but even in recent years, their defense has been atrocious. But you still feel pretty good about where you are as a franchise, I would imagine, or at least better.
Sure.
Because, you got the guy.
I think quarterback can cover up other stuff.
Right.
We've had this conversation here in the last couple shows. But, James, again, in the short-term immediacy.
No, I agree.
Buckner and Taylor were massive
Yeah.
pieces to making the playoffs in 2020.
Yeah.
So if you remove both of them from the equation, you still have Rivers. Are you in the playoffs? Again, they got the last playoff spot. It's not like they won the division by 3 games. It's
Right.
not like they were the 2
Won the
seed.
division. Come on now.
So I think a lot here on this Tuesday morning. Mark, if you can find that audio, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
He
with
ain't
that.
been working. He can do it.
Excuse you.
I'm sorry.
No, I have it for another rejoiner.
Oh, look at that.
Doing a deep dive, my friend.
Man, that Taco Bell went right to your brain, not to your anus.
I'm not going to lie.
Well, it's a little early to tell, but we'll see how the rest of the morning plays out.
You're the one more optimistic than I am. I'm expecting you to sprint down the hallway here any minute.
I got a garbage can here just if all else fails.
All I'm saying is
Eddie Garrison's coming in any minute.
They were serving tacos and salad at the Fever game the other night, and I was like, yeah, I think I'll pass. The lettuce and, a couple of the other non-cooked vegetables, I don't think will be good right now for me.
My ride or die till the end of time, Taco Bell.
I look like quite the Taco Bell
I was
order.
about to say, well, I hope you
got
don't
5
die.
people I got to feed, so, the orders ain't cheap.
Much more on this, some more pertinent Colts topics day of. And speaking of the Fever, it was a bit of a short Caitlin Clark yesterday and some of her answers. Is there more there? We'll chat with James Boyd about that. 8 o'clock hour here on a Tuesday.
realize that you were just about as bad as me. Sometimes I only remember the days when I was young.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Reminder, Warren Sharp, NFL analyst, going to join us coming up at 9 o'clock. He's got a lot of interesting things about the Colts' upcoming season and a huge seasonal preview. So we'll chat with him at 9. Joel A. Erickson getting into our what if from today. What if the Colts had drafted a quarterback in the immediate draft right after Andrew Luck had retired? Again, I think we can kind of get a little bit too down a rabbit hole when we play out the, well, what about this trade scenario? What about, this situation? This one I think has some realistic nature to it. When you look at where the Colts were positioned in that draft, number 13 overall, what you saw in that draft. I'm not even talking about like trading up for Justin Herbert. I mean, that would have been, I think, pipe dreamy, but, Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts going many picks after them. It really ended up being one of the more impressive drafts we've seen in quite a while. Welcome back to Mark Dykton, by the way. Mark, how was your trip down to Florida?
Good. Had a great time. Hot as all hell out there, but very good time. So the girls had a great time seeing family and whatnot. So, yeah, cannot complain.
And you're back ready to give away a 4-pack of tickets, did I hear?
Yes, sir. They saw I'm back, and they said we better start doling out the giveaways. So 4-pack of Indy 11 tickets for this Saturday.
Loudoun United, am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Leesburg, Virginia. How about a text of simply soccer to the text line right now, 317-239-1070. Give us the word soccer, and Mark will give out, I believe, 2 pairs of 4-packs for that one coming up.
Yes, 2.
On Saturday.
You guys like the World Cup final, by the way? We haven't talked since that. Did you enjoy yourselves, or was it a little too boring for you?
It was funny. I was listening to something yesterday where the comment was, can you imagine the discourse in the United States had we been outshot 20-2?
Oh, I know.
Now, obviously, the counter would be, well, at least you're in the final. But it's amazing because you when you see 1-0, you're like, well, it didn't really feel that bad, but just the domination of Spain from possession and what they were able to create and what Argentina was unable to create. I mean, it is a bit stunning. I mean, it's not. I mean, Spain tied Cape Verde, didn't they? Their first match.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, I mean, Spain is great. Don't get me wrong, but that was the surprising element to me, Mark. Is like you had to go 110 minutes before Argentina threatened the goal.
Well, and I think it could have been way worse than that because Argentina's goalie was standing on his head the majority of the game. So it's like that could have easily been 3-0, 4-5. He made some incredible saves in that game.
Now, were you a fan of the third place game? Because James came in here acting like it was
fantastic.
The greatest game ever
It was
played.
great.
It was outstanding. I was like, oh, man, England's just routing them, and this game's over. And then all of a sudden, Mbappe's like, no. Let's run this back a little bit.
No,
that was a great game.
That was the NBA All-Star game.
Oh, my gosh.
We're going to watch the NBA All-Star game, and you guys will be like, there's no
disrespect.
defense whatsoever. Mbappe's cherry-picking for goals.
Are they giving out bronze medals?
I've never been entertained by an NBA All-Star game. I was entertained as hell by the third-place game.
Thank you.
I'm glad England felt the need to throw Harry Kane on the pitch. I'm glad they felt the need to throw Pickford on the pitch. England was playing a bunch of their B-leaguers.
It was their best finish since 1966. Put some respect on the Englanders. The English.
Yesterday over at Fever Practice, James Boyd was in attendance.
Not much English displayed on some of these conversations. Very, very short.
Let's get into that. And honestly, I guess, James, before we get into your thoughts, let's actually play the audio, Mark. This was Caitlin Clark yesterday. And again, to set things up, Caitlin was asked several different things yesterday, but she was also asked about her current situation with technical fouls. Again, she has been whistled for 6 of them now. She's played in 22 games? Because she's missed a couple. She can't.
Yes, she's missed 4 of 26.
Okay, so she has 6 technicals in 22 games. And if she gets to the 8th technical, which seems rather inevitable, that would be a suspension of 1 game. You are suspended every 2 games after that. So if you really want to do the math right now, she is on pace to being suspended for 2 games here the rest of the season if she continues at this pace. So A little bit of a back and forth here. This is Caitlin Clark yesterday in regards to her technical foul situation.
Did you get an explanation for your tech? What happened in that?
I just yelled at him to call it, and obviously it was a pretty quick technical, but whatever.
Kayla, do you think that you need to change any of your approach to the game because you are so close to the suspension?
No.
That was the last question and answer of her media scrum.
Did you cut that off early, Mark, or was that it?
No, because it goes to the next question.
No, there is no next question.
Somebody talks about it in the back. Somebody says something in the background, and then I think.
No, I can give you the lay down there or the low down there, Mark. That was the last question because right after that, PR goes, "All right, see you, Caitlin." Like that's it.
James chased her off.
One more time, Mark, if you don't mind on that.
You want the whole thing?
Sure.
Get an explanation for your tech. What happened in that?
I just yelled at him to call it, and obviously it was a pretty quick technical, but whatever.
Kayla, do you think that you need to change any of your approach to the game because you are so close to the suspension?
No.
Boys, she's gonna be herself.
So James, you obviously asked that question. I don't know. I feel like I do this oftentimes. I ask a question and then it comes out of my mouth. I'm like, I don't know if I, asked that in the manner that I should have or wanted to, or, I guess how do you kind of look at her reaction there? Because, for those that are not listening to Caitlin Clark often in these press conference settings, she's rather talkative, I would say, comparing her to most athletes. I would say her answers are usually many seconds. She reminds me a bit of Tyrese Halliburton in that state of they don't really give a lot of short answers. They're thoughtful. I enjoy listening to them. There are some athletes on the prominent side in this market that don't fit that bill, to be clear, but I would not label Caitlin Clark or Tyrese Halliburton at all in that. So I guess, what did you make of her one-word answer there?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is that I probably should have thrown a better question out there. Like, for example, one, do you just expect to be suspended at some point? I think that's a fair question, given how her stance has not changed, but between the fifth and sixth text now. And then more importantly, probably is like, do you think your behavior needs to change so you don't miss games that could hurt your team? And
yeah,
she could argue that, it's not hurting my team, I'm passionate, but like that's the question that really needs to be answered. Because you saying you won't change, well, something probably needs to, because I will not sit here and defend anybody who gets suspended for a game and then a lot of the reaction, according to some fans, and I get the frustration of it, is like, she isn't officiated the same as other players, and the other players don't necessarily like her. Yet she's not the 11th best player, 11th best guard in the league, clearly, as the players voted. However, I get all of that. But you missing a game because you can't control your temper, to me, is inexcusable. And the idea that you won't change any of your behavior and you'll just, it's inevitable, I can't control it, it is what it is also very stubborn and I think selfish to a degree.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly with all of that. I mean, I think her passion, her drive, her individual motivation, however you want to define how she's wired, obviously all of that is a huge part in how she has gotten to the level that she has gotten to. Like, I in no way, shape, or form, I think, should we or, her look at herself and want to lessen that or want to, whatever, kind of rein that in. But I do think the demonstrative nature of how she reacts post whistle, or hell, not even post whistle. Sometimes it happens during the course of the game when the play is still going on. I do think that can be reined in. The only player in the league that has more technicals than her is Angel Reese. I would like to hold Caitlin Clark to a standard that is not Angel Reese in this situation. And you laid it out perfectly, Jay. It is nearing costing her team a game or two. And let's look at the standings. They're currently 1.5 games out of home court in round one. When's the last time this franchise had a home court series? They are currently 4 out of the 1 seed. I mean, it's not that far-fetched with how they're playing right now, if they continue to get hot second half of the season, that they could challenge for, home court in multiple rounds of a playoff series. So I was stunned, frankly, to hear that answer from her. Like, I thought it's really probably one of the few times she's ever answered a question, and I've disagreed with her answer in 3 years of listening to her answer questions of like, she has used that excuse. She didn't obviously elaborate on it there, but she's used the excuse before of, this is how I am as a player. I'm passionate. Yes, that's great. But when the passion starts to approach status to where you could be suspended for a game, then that post-whistle passion, you berating officials. I mean, she was fortunate she didn't get tech the other night when she, looked like Bryson DeChambeau in the heather stomping towards the official. Like, that to me is where it is crossing a line. And frankly, I'm a little shocked and disappointed that she can't see that.
Do you think part of her sees that and just doesn't want to admit it publicly? Because I can't sit here and say, like, she isn't smart enough to know.
Right.
Come on now.
I think that's what's frustrating, too.
I think she's just stubborn. I don't think this is like...
This is not my 3-year-old son here, which
Fair.
is like
That's
trying
fair.
to like get across to him. It's like, I'm speaking words and I'm like, is this just worthless? Should I just stop and save some breath here? No, like, she is an extremely intelligent, smart, thoughtful human here. I would think she realizes, or how did she not watch these videos and be like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have acted in that manner?
That's the money question right there. Because she normally, yesterday, she was just in a mood, and that's fine. We talk to these players all the time. They're not going to be in great moods for every single media session. And granted, when they were dreaming about being NBA or WNBA players, they probably weren't dreaming about being interviewed by James Boyd. So I get that. But there has to be a certain level of accountability you find within yourself. And I do think, to a degree, that your accountability needs to be publicly displayed to truly show leadership. Like, you could say all the right things behind closed doors, but I think your messaging publicly matters. And again, we can sit here and say, well, the refs got to be better. Yes, they do. I think WNBA officiating is awful. But I also can't say that out of all these players in the league, if you get suspended and you're the only one that gets suspended for a game because of your temper, that is just this excusable offense. No, they need you on the floor. They need you available. And for all the people who keep telling me, oh, well, she's got a back thing she's dealing with, the game off will be good for her. Well, when you have the back injury, you choose which game you need to miss, not the other way around. Whereas when you get suspended, it's just automatically the next game.
Well, and again, you right there, we're talking singular. If you want to play out her 6 technicals in 22 games, she's on pace to be suspended multiple times.
Yeah.
If this pattern continues, and again, let's say she's healthy the rest of the way. She's missed 4 games so far. Let's say she's healthy. That allows for more games for her to get teed up in, which just sounds wild for me to even say, but that's the reality of where they're at. So Fever back in action coming up tomorrow night. Connecticut Sun at 8 o'clock here. And nothing more on minutes restriction for Caitlin Clark. And also, Kelsey Mitchell was absent from practice yesterday. Personal issue, is that right?
Yeah. I don't want to say personal issue, personal reasons. It could be a good reason, but we weren't given really anything else beyond that. So I will be at practice later today, and we'll update you all when I have more info.
They should be a big favorite for tomorrow night here. It's their final game before off to the Windy City for All-Star break, and they'll head back out west. Seems like they've had a lot of Western trips already, but they'll have a Western trip to begin the second half of the season coming up next week. Mark, let's go ahead and check it down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Suave Men Refreshing Face and Body Wash on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We're back into our summer What If series coming up on the other side. What if the Colts had drafted a quarterback in the immediate draft after Andrew Luck had retired? But let's begin with, weirdly, some live sports on a Monday in the summer. That's what happened when Mother Nature didn't cooperate for IndyCar down in Nashville. It was Alex Palou once again getting it done down there. Hell, they could race any day of the week. They could race probably in many countries, and Alex Palou would be the Odds-on favorite held off Joseph Newgarden and David Malukas. Hell of a weekend for Malukas. At one point, it looked like he wouldn't be able to get back in the car due to some sort of injury. It looked like Connor Daly was going to have to potentially qualify that car, but Malukas was released and ended up almost winning the race. So a hell of an effort from him as that budding star continues to shine, but it is Alex Palou's world here. So he wins down in Nashville. Quiet for IndyCar now the next couple of weeks, and then they have the busiest month of the year coming up in August and the first week of September. Major League Baseball right now, the Boston Red Sox have won 14 straight games. They got it done again last night. They are easily the hottest team in baseball. We're having Joel Erickson on at 9:30. I mean, Mark, just give his Brewers the NL Central crown, right?
Sure seems like that. They can't seem to lose. So, yeah, seems like a NL wild card for my Cubs at the moment, barring a Brewers collapse.
Cubs collapsed late last night. They lose in extras to the Tigers. The Reds are horrific. They got shut out by the Mariners. Cardinals losing to the Angels. White Sox over the Rangers.
You okay over there?
Did your mic fall apart? What'd you do there?
I had a sneeze.
Oh.
Yeah, he's allergic to apparently talking about.
He talked about the Reds and he started convulsing.
I was going to say.
It's not the first time my eyes have watered up about the Reds. So let's just leave it at that. Indianapolis Indians home this week, and you think more fans at the Paw Patrol game than the Marvel game. Paw Patrol Sunday, Marvel night Saturday. First 1,000 fans get a Spider-Man related hat on Saturday.
I would also say Sunday is when kids eat free, so that's a perk.
We're getting Humdinger and Goodway on the Kiss Cam.
You know it. You know it.
Your favorite Paw Patrol character?
What's the fire dog's name again?
Is that Rubble?
No, not Chase. What's the other one?
Marshall.
Marshall, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I kind of like how Rubble's built. He's kind of built like me. Kind of built like Ryan Fox.
We went to Tennessee and we went to this one arcade with my in-laws, and as soon as we walked in, the guy just handed the girls and our cousins like inflatable Paw Patrol dogs, like yay big.
Might as well hand them a ticket to heaven.
And my brother and I looked at the guy and we're like, USOB. We have to inflate all these right now. These kids aren't going to leave us alone until we inflate them. So we were sucking air for 45 minutes trying to get them all inflated. I needed a beer afterwards.
You maybe needed a cigarette if you had anything left in the old lungs after that. What else we got here? Indiana, their basketball team, Darren DeVries and company in Peru. That would be the country, not the home of Jeremiah Johnson. They're going to play a foreign tour coming up again. They're repping Team USA in this. So if you see any pictures, videos, and you see the USA in the jersey, that is why. I believe their first game is tonight at 6 o'clock. You can find some somewhat legal YouTube stream and hope your laptop doesn't blow up if you want to watch them. Announced yesterday, IU and Arkansas. You like this, James?
I do like this. I think it's a pretty marquee matchup for an IU team that should be a lot better, at least on paper, than they were last year. And Arkansas is a perennial top 20-ish team under Calipari, so I don't mind it.
So this will be a Tuesday in November, the 17th of November, from Madison Square Garden. Insert your joke here about Coach Cal not wanting to play Indiana inside of Assembly Hall. So the non-conference schedule for Darren DeVries starting to take shape a little bit here. We await official word. They will play Kentucky. That will be Mark Pope in Kentucky, of course. At Lucas Oil, that's in December, if I remember correctly. Syracuse at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. I think that became a thing once the game with Butler, IU pulled out of that one. And then rumored Missouri making a visit there to Assembly Hall coming up in December. So looks like 4-ish notable non-conference games so far. For Indiana, Purdue will be up in Canada for their foreign tour coming up. I believe that begins later this week. And a little bit of Pacers news yesterday. Michael Scotto, NBA reporter, saying that the team has waived Talon Peter. He just played in the Summer League, and I didn't notice him too much in the Summer League action I watched there. Second-round pick from last year. Didn't really notice him too much.
Yeah, I figured that last two-way spot would go to Jalen Slauson, who balled out in Summer League. He's also a bigger player physically, and I think when you have the opportunity to take a flyer on a 6'8" wing, you do that.
So we'll see how exactly their two ways play out. Again, we discussed this with Tony East. Right now it seems like kind of four guys for three spots: Braden Smith, Kobe Brown, Ethan Thompson, and then who am I forgetting? Oh, Slauson, who you just mentioned there. But Slauson and Brown, again, positionally, they're kind of similar. So I'll be curious if the Pacers want to balance that out at all. I would still leave that final roster spot open because I think you need the flexibility throughout the year to have that. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. Reminder, Brickyard 400 coming up on Sunday. I know some cooler temps, I think, are starting to enter the area here the rest of this week. Hopefully that lingers through Sunday. You got no state fair starting. You got no Colts training camp. So you can watch that again. Back on the Oval after a few years on the road course. It's been Kyle Larson and Bubba Wallace win on the Oval each of the last 2 years. All right, coming up. Are we good on the ticket giveaways, Mark?
Yes.
So we gave away those Indy 11 4-packs for Saturday night. Let's get a little weather update. And then on the other side, back into our What If series. The Chris Ballard audio I find pretty enlightening in kind of answering maybe our big question of the day in regards to this topic.
We are tracking a very warm and humid day across central Indiana. Scattered showers and thunderstorms will be around at times. A strong gusty storm cannot be ruled out with a high near 87 degrees. I'm Fox 59 meteorologist Amber Hardwick for The Fan.
Andy Moore Group campus out there in Avon. Rockville Road, always the place to be. My dad grew up in Danville, so I've ventured out that way many times. Was out there a few weeks ago meeting with some of the GMs from the Andy Moore Group campus. And I say GMs plural because there's 4 brands on one campus: Nissan, Toyota, Kia, and Volkswagen. So it is a terrific opportunity to compare, contrast, prices, used, new, hybrid models. You get service at all 4 sites, depending on, what brand you end up going with. And I would say great inventory on site as well. Someone that bought a car recently, that's huge. I think having that ability to drive something off the lot there. So again, it's a one-stop shop for 4 different brands off of Rockville Road. It's the Andy Moore Group Campus, Kia, Volkswagen, Toyota, Nissan. Head out there today. Tell them Kevin Bowen sent you. The Andy Moore Group Campus in Avon.
When Andrew retired, it kind of changed the dynamic. It doesn't mean you go out and just go do a bunch of desperate things. No, you still got to be sound and do the right thing for the organization. But look, I feel urgency every year. Do you think people regret Baker Mayfield's timeline? Sam Darnold's timeline? Let's just go. Exactly. And so how about sometimes you got to have a little patience.
The easy thing would be to make an excuse. And look, at the end of the day, not getting the quarterback position right has hampered it. And that falls on me. I don't fall on anybody else but me.
So again, our what if today on this Tuesday morning, what if the Colts had drafted a quarterback in that immediate draft after Andrew Luck retired? And James, we've kind of gone over some of the context, but just to kind of further reiterate what that draft looked like. The Colts went 7-9 in that 2019 season, the year after, well, I should say the weeks after Andrew Luck retired. Jacoby Brissett, starting quarterback. 13th pick is what they ended up having. And again, that draft had Joe Burrow going 1, Tua going 5, Justin Herbert going 6. I don't even want to entertain those guys. That'd be a big trade up.
Yeah.
And like that to me is not very realistic. But Jordan Love went 26. The Colts had definite interest in Jordan Love and were just kind of turned off late. Jalen Hurts was a widely debated player inside of that building as well. He ended up going 53rd overall. And so I find this one a realistic debate.
Yeah.
How would this have reshaped Chris Ballard and Frank Reich's tenure had they drafted one of those 2 quarterbacks?
Yeah.
With Phillip Rivers still being signed, which I think is an important thing to mention here because you could have had the 1 year, that COVID year, with Rivers and kind of pass the torch.
Yeah, so I'm actually looking at a story here. Do you remember when me and Zach dropped kind of like that referendum on the Colts a couple years ago?
Yes, I do.
So in this story, we have a line here that says, in 2020, Ballard wanted Oklahoma's Jalen Hurts, whom he graded as a third-round talent. There's something about this guy, Ballard kept telling the room. Problem was, Eagles GM Howie Roseman felt the same way and took Hurts in the second round. So again, if you look at this, you could say, well, maybe you should have been a little bit more aggressive and perhaps moving up to get a Jalen Hurts. And in that scenario, you could potentially still go out and get Phillip Rivers. Is probably one or the other, I would think, at that point as far as draft capital. You know, do you want to get Phillip Rivers, retain your first-round pick, use that to bolster your team, and then spend a second-round pick on Jalen Hurts? Granted, no JT. Or do you do what you did and kind of stick with the plan of, well, you know what, we're trying to win now. Let's go get the star defensive tackle and stick with the future potential Hall of Famer. Yeah. So it was interesting looking back at that quote, there's something about this guy, and not feeling that there was maybe enough there for you to really make that move.
Yeah, and I think they were a little turned off by Love character-wise. And remember, Jordan Love was a Utah State quarterback. And, again, I don't want to necessarily be vetting character issues here, but I'll just point out, remember Love I believe he was suspended for Utah State's bowl game, I think. I thought it was just possession of marijuana. I say just, but, I think when you're ranking some of these off-the-field issues, that would rank very, very low, frankly. But, it is quarterback. And, clearly Green Bay traded back up for him, and they sat him for a few years with Aaron Rodgers, and that's worked out quite well for him. So
clearly they don't have issues with drug using quarterbacks over there.
Oh, look at you, Mark.
Ayahuasca, weed, it don't matter.
It's a shame that you just couldn't resist that.
He called him a drug using quarterback. Jeez.
He's back with his family. You saw the pictures yesterday, Mark.
Yeah.
That's AI. That ain't real.
Oh my gosh.
How about a compliment here? It's Aaron Rodgers.
I was going to say, that man will roll over in his grave. He's still living right now.
Congratulations on doing the bare minimum of begetting along with your family.
Like, Mark, when you have, and Mark,
Jeez.
Do you have that Ballard combine answer isolated by chance? Because
give me a second. Let me pull it up.
I feel like it's, when asked, why do you feel like you haven't figured it out? And again, that's kind of a succinct, albeit pretty elementary way to ask what is an answer that I think is filled with some complications in it. He does point to the quarterback position, which is a 180 from how he approached that position at his introductory press conference, where he says it's not about one guy. And to me, I'll go back to the analogy I used an hour ago. When you try the Band-Aid quarterback, it's like jumping in the pool, putting the Band-Aid on. It's not going to last very long. And when you sign a player like Phillip Rivers, when you trade for a player like Matt Ryan, you run the risk of Father Time entering the picture. Entering the picture quicker than maybe you thought in the case of Matt Ryan. Entering the picture quicker than you thought with Rivers off the field. I thought Rivers was fine, frankly. I thought he was pretty good in 2020. But again, you got a 40-something-year-old quarterback that has got a million kids. And so there's a push and pull when it comes to that aspect to it. And then obviously the Carson Wentz situation after that. But I think it's fascinating to look at how that draft, James, would or could have been different. So they traded the 13th pick for Buckner, okay?
Yep.
Let's say they trade back from 13 to 23, okay? Trade back 10 spots. Mm-hmm. That's going to net you another day 2 pick, okay? Let's say you take that quarterback there. Let's just say it's Love for the sake of the argument. So you take Love at 23. Now you're sitting there with, I think it was 34, ended up being Pittman. You could have an additional day 2 pick via the trade back. And then you also have, I want to say it was like 46, which ended up being Jonathan Taylor. They ended up trading up a couple spots for Taylor. So in that second round, you could have, maybe not in this order, but you could have theoretically still taken Pittman, Taylor, and then with that additional trade back, then you're drafting a defensive tackle. Now, is that defensive tackle going to be Buckner? Of course not. But what's easier to try and find and/or what impacts your football team more? By all accounts, DeForest Buckner has been a great player. Multiple All-Pro, Pro Bowls, durable as hell, et cetera, et cetera. But what are the team results? That's what it comes down to. Because I hear a lot of people say, well, yeah, I do that Buckner trade 10 times out of 10. Well, I don't think it's that easy. Yes, he turned out to be a very good player, but when you're missing quarterback, every single move, the Sauce Gardner trade last year, before you make every single move, before that green light, whatever, the button's pressed, however you want to define it, you've got to sit there as a franchise and say, what about quarterback? How are we finding it? What are we doing there? How are we addressing that? It's the most important position in sports. You want Daniel Jones on the side of the building largely because he plays quarterback, James. And again, I don't discredit that. I understand where you're coming from with that thought. It's a position that just matters more than anything else. And so I think that's where, in my opinion, Ballard just kind of lost sight and got way too short-termy and thinking that was the route. Mark, let's go ahead and play this. Again, this was from the Combine a couple years ago.
Like either you get it done or you don't. I'm not going to sit here and the easy thing would be to make an excuse. And look, at the end of the day, not getting the quarterback position right has hampered it. And that falls on me. I don't fall on anybody else but me. And it's something that, you learn and you grow from. I think we've done good with Anthony. Now, I think time will play out. But my failures in that space and with a position that's so important, you have to get that right. You have to have a guy that can actually lead you and make plays in critical moments. That's the great separator in our league. I think you see it every year in the playoffs. I think you see it with teams that really excel and go forward. They have a guy at that position that, when the game's on the line or when there's real leverage points in the game where you need to make a play, he makes a play.
James, Scott says this in the text line. I feel like the biggest miss is not going all out to get Matthew Stafford. I know the Colts are one of the teams being mentioned heavily in trading for Stafford. Again, Stafford and Wentz were the same offseason, just to kind of update or, go back to where all of that played out there. I think the Colts had some hesitancy about Stafford from their GM there. But, when you look at it, do you think the bigger miss was not drafting a quarterback in 2020 or making the trade for Carson Wentz? And I get that hindsight is alive and well here, but
did the Carson Wentz trade, they had a first-round pick in it, right?
First and a third, right, for Wentz? I think there was some playing time stipulations, but I believe first and third.
That's probably where I would lean, Kevin. I think the Carson Wentz trade, especially because you got off of him after 1 year, was just super detrimental to the direction of your franchise.
It was a 2021 third and then a conditional 2022 second that got bumped to a 2022 first because he played over 75% of their snaps.
It's almost like the first domino led to the second domino. And again, that's where I'm getting at with the Band-Aid analogy. It's like you're just going to be continuing to swim upstream.
Yeah.
You're just, you have to correct that problem as big as you can. That's just my opinion on it, or else Phillip Rivers' retirement leads to Carson Wentz, leads to Matt Ryan, leads to you feeling desperate in 2023, and then the ball doesn't bounce your way necessarily. Two teams above you in the draft need a quarterback. There's Bryce Young, there's C.J. Stroud. Now you're left with the third pick, and boom, it's Anthony Richardson. And here you are.
And here we are. I think that's very fair to kind of look at it like that, Kevin. And I guess my one thing is, do you think that Frank Reich was a big factor or could have been a big factor in developing a quarterback? I get that he was kind of viewed as like the quarterback whisperer, and a lot of that went into the decision to go after Carson Wentz and ultimately Matt Ryan, who was established in an MVP and all that. But my point is, do you think Jordan Love develops the same in this market, in this setting, in this ecosystem, same as Jalen Hurts? Like, I think both kind of stepped into situations where they weren't right away. And not saying that would have happened here, but they weren't really asked to be something tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, Hurts was honestly a little bit of a quicker hit than Love. Love, it took a couple of years of sitting, and then, it's not like he was instantaneously great
Right.
once he
And
played.
do you have that runway here to sort of do
now,
that?
I do, and, Mark will love this. I mean, I do think Phillip Rivers is much more of a healthier tutor than Aaron Rodgers. So I do think that would have been advantageous to either Love or Hurts in that situation. So, yeah, that's another hypothetical off of this. You would be passing the torch. You'd be doing what Green Bay has done beautifully well. I know it pains Mark, but Green Bay has done it better than anybody. And the ability to have successful quarterbacks and draft successful quarterbacks and pass the torch seamlessly. It's damn impressive what they've done.
I do just remember conversationally, like even back then, where we're kind of like, are they ever going to draft a quarterback with like meaningful like draft picks? Because they just kept kicking the can down the road.
Jacob Eason was the only one for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and we just kept waiting and waiting and waiting. It's like, nope, another veteran. Nope, Matt Ryan, come on down. Phillip Rivers, come on down. Carson Wentz, it's your turn. Hey, Joe Flacco's here now. It's like, what? It was just a weird situation where it was just like kicking the can down the road every single year.
More on this, Joel A. Erickson coming up 9:30. Reminder, Warren Sharp, NFL reporter, super analytical dude. He's got a ton of info as we get ready for 1 week out from training camp report day at Grand Park. He'll join us at 9. I've got an all-Indiana bet relayed from listener Tyler, Mark Dykton. Are you ready for it?
I need it. Let me know.
We'll give that to you on the other side.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
All right, hear me out on this. What if I told you Indiana football will win at least 10 games this year?
Okay. I'm listening.
You guys in agreement? Are you guys good at that?
Yeah, I think so.
IU goes at least 10-2.
I feel like I can't pick against IU ever again. Have you seen what they did to my team last year?
Pacers win at least 45 games.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 45 feels kind of low, but
There was
I'll
a
take it.
long pause for both of you. You guys good with that? I'm saying at least 45.
Oh, at least 45. Okay, I thought you said
45 plus is what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah.
At least 45 wins.
I thought you said max out at 45, and I was going to say, dang, that's kind of low. But okay, yeah, at least 45. Okay.
Okay, so you guys seem to be good on that. The Colts win at least 7.
Yeah, they're not going to bottom out. They're always going to be around that 7, 8, 9 range.
Getting a little itchy and scratchy now, but go ahead.
It could be the Taco Bell starting to rise up in you.
Pepto-Bismol today, just in case.
You're shotgunning Pepto-Bismol in there. Okay, so you guys seem rather, James maybe a little bit more confident than Mark, but again, to reiterate, IU football, at least 10 wins.
Yeah, I'm rocking with it.
Pacers, at least 45.
I'm rocking with it.
Colts, at least 7.
I'm rocking with it.
So this is Colts 7 plus. This isn't 6.5. This is
least 7.
At least 7.
The other one, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, Tyler, the listener, chimed in here. He has placed this 3-bet parlay. And, Tyler sent me the bet slip, so I guess I can release the info on air. $600 to win $2,000.
Woo!
Now.
That's scratch I don't got.
Now, how we feel? How we feel about that? James seemed pretty confident. $600 to win $2,000 for your little all Indiana parlay right there. Now the sweat's starting to develop a little bit there.
The only one that I feel kind of iffy on is the 10 wins.
Indiana at 10? Ooh, wow. You think Indiana go 9-3? I think that's the one I'm most confident in.
I think the Colts is the one I'm least confident in.
I'm pretty confident the Colts winning 7 games. They always find a way to not be horrible. But yeah, I just think that college football is weird, man.
Oh, no, their schedule's not that. I mean, what do you got? Ohio State and what?
I get that, but
don't play Oregon, right?
Should I trust this quarterback? Is this guy any good? Nah, he is pretty good.
See, I think I went in order of my confidence. Indiana first.
Oh, seriously?
IU football first. Yeah, because Pacers, I do, but like you are just one freakish Halliburton injury away from 45 could be in jeopardy.
Yeah, but I feel
you're
like
just so dependent on his health.
But I feel like you're one wacky college game away from losing.
No, the schedule isn't tough enough.
Fair enough. And this, to be clear, this isn't me hating on IU. I just think that is there going to be a little dent in the armor this year? A little more than maybe I expect?
Yeah, I get that 3 losses isn't a lot, like quantity wise, but I just don't see 3 on that schedule. I think their D-line's going to be really good. So, any takers on that? That's a nice payout, boys.
Ooh.
Nice payout.
Ooh.
My all Indiana parlay. Tyler, thank you for that.
Tyler's got me sweating here.
Now, speaking of sweat, Mark Dykton, you see what's in here?
I see a box. I've been meaning to ask you what that is.
Well, I thought maybe we could open it up in the 9 o'clock hour and see what's in there.
By the way, I am looking at this schedule. Yeah. Jeez, I didn't realize it was this freaking week.
I mean, the non-conference is what? Little Sisters of the Poor, 3 weeks, and then
North Texas,
and then what?
Howard, shout out to HBCU, Western Kentucky, and then we get into the Big Ten schedule with the esteemed Northwestern Wildcats.
Rattle off the whole schedule. Big Ten is what?
Okay, Big Ten is Northwestern, Rutgers, Nebraska, Ohio State, Michigan, Minnesota, USC, Washington, Purdue. Yeah, I'm not seeing 3 losses here.
What are the road games? At Washington could be sneaky.
At Rutgers, at Nebraska, at Michigan, at Washington.
I mean, so they would have to lose at Washington, at Michigan, and home to Ohio State?
No, not happening.
Yeah, I mean,
see that.
Not for a Kurt Cignetti coach team. They won't have a dumb enough game to lose against, Northwestern.
now you're trying to talk myself out of it. Like, I feel pretty confident, but then there's part of me that's like, well, damn, Iowa and Penn State this year were road games that came down to the wire.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's.
And like those Iowa and Penn State teams.
Like,
I mean, wasn't Iowa on their backup quarterback and Penn State was pure chaos.
I know.
But no, I if I had Tyler's funds, I think I'd be dabbling.
I think my
Colts over
hesitancy is Josh Hoover. Like, how good are you? I trust Fernando, and just because he made every clutch play imaginable last year. But yeah, I do. I'm slamming the Colts winning 7 games. Yeah.
Another Tyler chiming in here on the text line. As another Tyler listener, I'm going to need someone to clarify to my wife that this bet was not me. Well, when you win, you might want to claim that it was you. But.
Well, I did have to laugh. We had one of the texters claim some of the tickets, and then we got a text here that says something like, "Well, sorry, boys, my wife told me no."
Oh, that is great. All right, coming up here in a few, Warren Sharp, NFL reporter, super analytical guy. He's got an awesome, thorough season preview out. Some interesting tidbits on the Colts. We'll chat with him coming up here at 9 o'clock. Good Tuesday morning to you. Thanks for spending it with us right here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
All right, 9 o'clock hour on a Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday for Mark.
Boy,
It's Taco Monday.
Hopefully it's not, to quote Matt Hasselbeck, not out of the basement in the attic like it was a few years ago on the Thursday night football win that the Colts had over the Houston Texans. Big win that was back in the, I think, 2015 season. Speaking of the NFL, speaking of Thursday night football, honestly, just speaking of thorough, our next guest, Warren Sharp, joining us here on the hotline. This 2026 football preview, oh my word. 32 teams in 619 full color pages. Boys, this had you.
Full color?
Mark, if you do have some explosive diarrhea today and you are on the toilet for a while, just read this. This thing will have you covered through all 7 of your trips to the toilet.
Just checking to make sure we still have Warren on the phone.
I was going to say, that's quite the endorsement.
I know, probably not the most enlightening intro I've ever done. Warren Sharp, good morning, sir. Sorry about that.
Hey, yeah, no worries. Look, you're right. This book did come out at the perfect time for those people who need to spend extra time in the restroom. It's great. It's great reading. I will say, though, in order to process 619 pages, you probably are going to need to have that bug for about 3 to 4 weeks because it's going to take a while to get through. But the good thing is it's organized into those 32 team chapters, so you can digest the Colts chapter probably in just about an hour, reading through it, understanding all the things that I have to say about the Colts, but then you get to study the rest of their opponents in the AFC South. You get to study the rest of the opponents in the AFC, their 2026 schedule overall, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it.
It's a great, super informative read. Mark is going to retweet Warren's link there off of his pinned Twitter account. Again, at Sharp Football. You obviously need to be following him if you're an NFL fan. I want to start here, Warren. As you kind of introduced the piece, I thought you brought up a great point about this time last year. Like, if we were sitting mid-July this time last year, no one was really talking about Seattle and New England. And the Colts are kind of in that boat. They're kind of a little bit similar there. And then you pointed out how last year was kind of a recent anomaly in that a lot of the mainstays we're used to in recent years in the NFL, they either didn't make the playoffs or didn't do much in the playoffs. Last year was, and I get we say parity a lot with the NFL, but last year was a really, really filled parity year in the league.
It was a fun year, but I think this year is going to be even more interesting, dynamic, explosive for a variety of reasons. But yeah, to your point, I mean, you look at the Super Bowl matchup, and at this point now, everybody's got, I don't know, it's hard to think back to the beginning of last season, to last summer, but the Patriots were 80-1 to win the Super Bowl. They were coming off of a terrible season in 2024. The Seattle Seahawks were 60-1 to win the Super Bowl, and those two teams met in the Super Bowl. That is extremely odd. Those are extremely long odds for teams to meet in the Super Bowl like they did. Prior Super Bowls, we've had teams that have much shorter odds, like the Chiefs, like the Eagles, like the 49ers, teams that typically are winning Super Bowls or having success, doing well in the season. Those teams had the shorter odds, and those teams were meeting. Last year, we had some more long shots that made the Super Bowl and ultimately won the Super Bowl. This year, the sports betting market does not have any idea what to do with the teams up at the top. They have a ton of teams with these mid-range odds to make the Super Bowl, which to me indicates that we're going to have a spicy season. We're going to have a more unpredictable season if the books don't really know which teams are going to be there towards the end of the season. And you look at all the teams that have historically had a lot of success. I went back in the book you mentioned, I went back and looked at the teams with the winningest records since 2020. And every single one of these teams, except for one, made changes to their coaching staff, either their head coach, their offense coordinator, or their defensive coordinator. Those best teams are flipping things around at the top. The teams that are, further down the chain don't win as much. We're flipping things around as well. And as a result, 10 new head coaches, 21 new offensive coordinators, 16 new defensive coordinators entering this season. We're having a lot of upheaval. We're also seeing a lot of new, I was tweeting about this yesterday, different tendencies offensively with the play calls to kind of countermatch what some of the defenses are doing. We're seeing more tight ends, less wide receivers out on the field. We're seeing more under center. We're seeing a higher target rates to other non-wide receiver positions. And as a result, I just think that this season is going to be so exciting, so unpredictable, and so fun for fans.
Again, that is the voice of Warren Sharp. You can purchase his preseason guide at sharpfootballanalysis.com. It costs $30. It's a great investment. Warren, I do want to start here in Indy land, where Daniel Jones is on track to start week 1. And assuming that he's healthy and is able to perhaps stay healthy, do you think what we saw through the first half of last year, which the Colts are basically betting on, Carly Ursay-Gordon, the owner, said, hey, we had paused in a movie and we want to kind of resume that. So do you think it's sustainable for him to have that sort of level of play going into 2026?
That is the million-dollar question. I'll be honest. When I spend days studying every single team, obviously I'm familiar with all the teams at the end of the season, having, handicapped and work with them all year long. But I then dig in and just, reserve a number of days in a row to look at all the statistics and data for each team as I'm writing their detailed chapter. And that's the biggest thing for me, because to me, there are two ways to look at the Indianapolis Colts. The easiest, most straightforward way to look at the Indianapolis Colts last season was, and I'm sure this is the way most people listening to us right now look at the Indianapolis Colts because they're fans. Daniel Jones, when he was healthy, that was weeks 1 to 10. The Colts went 8 wins and only 2 losses. Then he plays 2 games on this injured fibula, 0-2, and then after they tear the Achilles, they're 0-5 after that. So they go 0-7 when Daniel Jones is no longer healthy. That's one way to look at the schedule. The other way to look at the schedule is if you break it down against bottom 16 teams, so the below average teams, in efficiency. The Colts went 7-0 last year. And I'm talking about the teams that they beat were the Raiders, the Titans twice, the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Falcons, and the Chargers. That was the best team on that list. They won all those games 7-0. But against teams that were above average in efficiency last year, they went 1 win and 9 losses. And the teams that they lost to were the Seahawks, the Rams, the Texans twice, the Jaguars twice. The Broncos was the lone team that they won, that they beat. The 49ers, the Steelers, and the Chiefs. Now, that's truthful, but it's also flawed in that obviously Daniel Jones wasn't healthy for a lot of those games. And so we're not sure how they would have performed against the top half teams had Daniel Jones been healthy enough to play them. So that's why, to me, it's the million-dollar question, why I don't have an answer that I have a lot of confidence in. It's because I believe that the Indianapolis Colts last year were elite when Daniel Jones was healthy. And by that, I mean they weren't winning games in a lucky fashion. This was a team that was extraordinarily efficient when Daniel Jones was healthy. Those first 10 weeks, they were number 1 in EPA per play, number 1 in success rate, number 1 in yards per play, number 1 in first down rate. I list in the chapter like 15 different statistics. They were number 1 in every single statistic. In other words, they weren't winning these games because they were lucky. They were winning these games because they were the most elite offense in the NFL. To me, the thing that if I'm going to build the case for why I think the Colts could just pick up with the book at the chapter they left off on, like your owner was suggesting, if I'm going to believe that, I'm leaning into Shane Steichen, who I think is one of the most underrated offensive play callers and game planners that we have in the NFL. And I go into detail in the book about how historic his offense has been in the first quarter of games with his ability to script and build leads and have success early on in games. And this is since he arrived in Indy with Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew and Daniel Jones and Joe Flacco and Phillip Rivers and Riley Leonard. This offense since 2023 ranks number 2 in fewest punts per drive in the first quarter of games with those quarterbacks. And we're competing against Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and all the other good quarterbacks in the NFC as well. This is the second best team in the first quarter, third best in score rate per drive, fifth best in yards per drive. This is not because you've got good quarterbacks. This is because you have one of the best play callers and schemers out there in the NFL, in my opinion, who does not get his flowers. But that is why I would have confidence. The case where I would feel worse about the Colts is the fact that their schedule obviously gets more difficult. They are not predicted to win very many games this year. They have a projection right now that's hovering between 7.5 and 8.5 wins, depending upon where you are going to shop for that. And that might surprise a lot of people. And this was this similar win total to what they had last year. And you know what they did last year? They had a win total of 7.5. They went over that by week 10 last year. That has only happened one other time in the last decade, and it was Patrick Mahomes' first year with the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs. So the market is skeptical about the Indianapolis Colts this year and do not envision them picking back up where they left off last year with Daniel Jones. But there are some reasons to be optimistic, but also pessimistic at the same time. It's a tricky situation.
You're going to get educated, to say the least, when you consume Warren Sharp's content, particularly the 2026 football preview he's referencing here. Again, Mark tweeted out that link from Warren. You can follow him at Sharp Football. I got one more for you, Warren, and you mentioned in there about the Colts draft class, and you referenced the value of their draft, and you had them, I think, ranked third of all the draft classes as the most valuable draft class here in 2026. I kind of referenced after the draft occurred back in April, Warren, that to me it was one of the better football draft classes. And I know it sounds weird to say with Chris Ballard, but he's drafted a lot on kind of relative athletic score. But this one, there are some strong resumes collegiately from these guys. Could you share a little bit on what goes into how you kind of rank those draft classes?
Yeah, so the draft classes, basically, I look at each pick in the draft as having a different amount of value. The highest picks in the draft have the most value. The lowest picks in the draft have the least value. Very intuitive. Then what you look at is you look at sort of the wisdom of crowds approach, where don't look at what this guy or that evaluator or some third-party evaluator thinks. Combine every single evaluator that you can get your hands on into one evaluation as to where we think some of these players are going to go. And then you look at, did the GM or whoever's making the final decision in selecting these players select a player at or higher than where he was expected to go? Or did they select a player lower than where he was expected to go? And you can kind of evaluate in that sort of wisdom of the crowds approach, reaches and steals. Now, on the surface, this might sound too rudimentary and not very detailed and prone to error. But the reality is, if you look back over years and years of data doing it this way, this is a far more accurate way to get good value out of a draft class. And this is the better approach than just going off the board, picking your own players, thinking that you know more than what most everybody else thinks. It's okay to do that once in a while. Nobody's going to fault the GM for going off the board a couple times to grab his guy or an extreme position of need, something along those lines. But for the most part, if you're constantly living in that world, and I'll throw out John Lynch of the San Francisco 49ers as constantly living in that world, you are not drafting very many players who are going to help your team long term. And that's why the San Francisco 49ers, yes, they win because they got an elite coach, but they're very top-heavy with their best players. You know, your Brock Purdy, your Christian McCaffrey, your Trent Williams, etc. But below that, and your Fred Warner. But below that, you have a lot of holes on your roster, and that's going to continue to show over the course of time. This was a very good draft class by the Indianapolis Colts, as you mentioned. Third most value that they got out of this draft class. C.J. Allen was taken at pick 53 overall. He was expected to be just at the top of the second round. Halsey was expected to be taken at 78. Pick 56. He was taken at 78, etc. So there are like 5 key players that you took where you got them later than where they were expected to go. And most of these players, the top 4 of them, 3 of them are on the defensive side of the football, but your guard, Jalen Farmer, was there as well, and one of your running backs was there as well. So I think it was a good overall draft class. I have a draft evaluator who just studies college football players 365 days out of the year. He watches college football during the season, and then all he does is study after the season. And he felt like this was one of the best draft classes that Chris Ballard has had.
I say this as the biggest compliment I can. It makes you want to go to the toilet and just spend an hour in there and lock yourself in there and consume NFL content. Again, courtesy of Warren Sharp at Sharp Football. It's the 2026 football preview. 32 teams in 619 full-color pages. And if you purchase the book, you can download it right from the website. So that is an excellent digital read as well. Warren, can't thank you enough, man. Congrats on it. It is super informative. Thanks for sending it our way. And good luck here, and looking forward to the NFL season and all your unbelievable content.
Same. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Warren Sharp right there on the hotline. Boy, that's a read.
That is a read. You're trying to get Mark to spend 2 weeks on the toilet, according to Warren.
I don't think I need to try for anything. I think he will be spending 2 weeks on the toilet after that Taco Bell purchase last night.
I'm hoping that you didn't put lettuce on it, Mark. Please tell me you didn't get any fresh vegetables. They're telling us to make sure the vegetables are cooked right now. So
he's not rocking the headset in there per usual. I
can slander him without him hearing me
now.
Oh, dang it. Mark, you didn't put any lettuce on that Taco Bell, did you?
I put all the lettuce. Are you kidding
Oh,
me?
my God. You're not supposed to do that right now.
I won't reveal any names, but I shared.
I'm not scared, James.
You ain't got to be scared to get sick.
James, I shared with you in the audience yesterday, we went to the John Mellencamp concert on Saturday night, and a member of the group we were in, but potentially a female, she said that
potentially, but go ahead.
They will definitely be getting Taco Bell post-concert, and they said it's a risk that they were willing to take as a couple.
That's right. It's my ride or die. Taco Bell never did me wrong. I'm gonna stand by them.
Well,
it's
until
not their
now,
fault.
they're on the record of having done you wrong.
It's not their fault. It's the farm's fault that they get the lettuce from. That's their fault, not Taco Bell's.
I do love
and
the
now is the
loyalty.
best time to get Taco Bell, in my opinion, because they're double and triple checking that lettuce. They're not getting you sick.
Okay.
They're on their P's and Q's.
I see your reasoning.
One thing, I do want to hit on a few of the things that Warren mentioned here coming up maybe tomorrow on the show, but one thing in reading his Colts chapter, I was reminded just how historically great they were to start the season. And, beating the you-know-what out of teams. And offensively, it was just a surgical clinic. Now, again, Warren throws in some context there that is relevant. I thought one of the more interesting stats he shared was, and this is more of an indicator of the Shane Steichen tenure, but against bottom 16 teams in efficiency last year, 7-0. Against top 16 teams in efficiency, 1-9. Now, again, did some of that fall in kind of the Daniel Jones injury calendar, if you will? Certainly. But, largely, that's kind of how it's gone in the Steichen era.
Right.
They beat bad teams, they lose to good teams. And they don't do enough of the beating of the good teams. I get that it's a rather obvious statement to make, but you got to start winning uglier and you got to start beating some quality teams. And we'll see if they can do that here. 1 week from today, the Colts will report to training camp. Our summer What If series has continued today. What if the Colts drafted a quarterback in that first draft right after Andrew Luck retired? Joel A. Erickson going to join us on the other side to chat about his memories down that pathway. Mark Dykton, he'll be happy to know his Brewers are really good at baseball. Let's hit that amongst other things in the checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Are we believing in the Boston Red Sox? 14 in a row?
Mark, you want to weigh in here? I'm not usually the baseball guy.
Yeah, winning streaks like that make you raise your eyebrows and say, "Oh, all right." All of a sudden, they're creeping up the AL East standings.
They're
but
still 6 back.
I know the
crazy.
Rays have been so good. That's the thing is the Tampa Bay Rays. They've got the smallest payroll. They trade people all the time, and yet they're right in it year in and year out, and they still have a 6-game lead over the Boston Red Sox after a 14-game winning streak. So Tells you how dominant the Rays have been in the first half of baseball.
Yeah, the Rays are clinging to a wild card spot, I believe, even throughout all of that right now, given the nature. The Red Sox are clinging to a wild card spot, even though they've won 14 straight games.
They're still third place in the AL East. Like they're not. And it's not just
Yankees
the Rays.
are above them,
The Yankees are above them by like 5 games.
A lot of local teams lost yesterday. White Sox did win, but Cardinals, Cubs, Reds all losing yesterday. Shout out to Joel's Brewers. Indianapolis Indians back at home all week long. Fever off from game action today. They'll play their final game before the All-Star break tomorrow. 8 o'clock, that's the Connecticut Sun. Our pregame coverage at 7:30. The Sun not very good at basketball. Caitlin Clark yesterday, she was very, very non-expansive when it came to her technical foul issue this season.
Yeah, didn't really want to talk about it. I did get a text from a listener saying, hey, make sure you ask questions that aren't yes or no. Good advice that I'll keep in mind going forward. But to be clear, we've thrown questions at her about this topic 10, 12 different ways, and the response all season long has been, I'm going to be me, and more or less, I don't care. So we'll see if that tone changes if and when she gets another technical foul or, at worst, suspended.
6 technicals, 8 would be suspended for a game, so 2 away from that. IU going to play Arkansas in basketball coming up this season. That would be John Calipari's Arkansas Razorbacks, announced yesterday at Madison Square Garden, Tuesday, November 17th. And a reminder, Indiana's currently down in Peru. Not a lot of details on when their games will be, but we do know 2 of them. They're going to play, I think, a handful. Tonight, 6 o'clock, Thursday, 6 o'clock. There is a YouTube link out there on the IU Athletics website if you want to watch these games. Again, they'll be repping Team USA down there for Darren DeVries' very new look roster. Shout out to Alex Pillow. Another win for him. It is number 5 of the season. Held off Joseph Newgarden and David Malukas down there on the Oval in Nashville yesterday. So Mother Nature finally cooperated, but still just a huge bummer that IndyCar missed out on all those eyeballs that they would have gotten following the World Cup there. Off now for a couple of weeks before a super busy month of August for them as they reach the end of their season coming up just before Labor Day. Brickyard 400 this weekend over at IMS, of course. Mark, tomorrow, 9 o'clock, Doug Bulls?
The teleprop. Correct. Yep.
What are you watching in there?
I think I had I almost fired off the weather, so I was.
Oh boy, I was about to say, here we go
Relax.
again.
Everybody calm down.
Oh man,
no HR
there goes our
meetings
show
here.
account.
Also, apparently, Twitter now has where they just start firing videos automatically. That needs to change.
Now let's not make excuses over here.
Come on, Elon, get it together.
But make sure your private tabs have the audio off, Mark Guyton.
Oh, shoot. There you go. Got it. Thank you, Kevin. What's in that box, by the way? You going to reveal that at some point?
Yeah, we got to open that box. Yeah, we do. How about we'll close out the show to open the box. Yeah.
What's in the box?
Pacers news yesterday, reportedly Taylon Peter being waived. We'll see how the 2-way contracts officially play out for them. Braden Smith, Kobe Brown, thought to be 2 of them. Is it Jalen Slauson and Ethan Thompson for the last spot? Do they use one of those standard contracts? They do have one available. I think it would be smart to keep that flexibility for the season, but we'll see if we get any news on that for the Pacers. All right, let's get into our Summer What If series. We'll do that on the other side. Joel A. Erickson, but as Mark was, I guess, watching, we do need to hear a weather update.
We are tracking a very warm and humid day across central Indiana. Scattered showers and thunderstorms will be around at times. A strong gusty storm cannot be ruled out with a high near 87 degrees. I'm Fox 59 meteorologist Amber Hardwick for The Fan.
Jacoby Brissett is an awesome dude. He's got a bright future.
With Brissett out, that means Brian Hoyer, number 2, is in.
A one-year deal, $25 million for Phillip Rivers to join the Indianapolis Colts.
The Philadelphia Eagles have agreed to trade quarterback Carson Wentz to the Colts.
Matt Ryan has been traded to the Colts, everybody.
Mike Garafolo is reporting that Foles is done to the Colts.
Sam Ehlinger is getting ready to make his first career NFL start.
Gardner Minshew agreed to terms with the Indianapolis Colts.
The Indianapolis Colts select Anthony Richardson.
The Colts have signed Comeback Player of the Year Joe Flacco.
Daniel Jones is signing with the Indianapolis Colts.
Phillip Rivers is back. The 44-year-old quarterback who recently became a grandfather signed with the Indianapolis Colts.
The Colts throwing a Hail Mary, announcing the rookie Riley Leonard is the starter.
Boy, that's a hell of a montage right there by Mark Dykton. Going down memory lane. That's what we've done now several times this summer. We hope you guys have enjoyed our What If series and our latest one. Today, what if the Colts had drafted a quarterback in that first draft right after Andrew Luck retired? Again, as Andrew mentioned there to lead off that montage, Jacoby Brissett and the Colts went 7-9 that season. They had the 13th overall pick. They traded that pick for DeForest Buckner. That was a draft that had Joe Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, and Jalen Hurts.
Options, you're saying. Options.
One of the better quarterback drafts we've had in quite some time. To talk more about that, we appreciate his entertainment with us here, and we hopefully will not keep him very long. Joel A. Erickson is with us on this Tuesday morning. Joel, when you hear that montage, when you hear our what if, what are some of the thoughts that go into that beautiful, intelligent brain of yours?
Well, the first one is I heard the montage on the way on the lead in, and I was like, man, it does not seem like it's been that. When you put them all together like that, it's kind of an avalanche coming at you of different quarterback moves that you don't process it if you're in it on the day to day because you're like, oh, that guy's gone and he's whatever. But yeah, I mean, some of the Brian Hoyer one really got me. The Brian Hoyer one. That one though. I mean, like that one is like they really didn't have any. They really didn't have any other option with Brian Hoyer because Luck retired, 2 games before 2 weeks before the start of the season. But that one really got me. I remembered that game and that game they lost the Dolphins, that kind of thing. My first thought. So this is, you guys have me on for the right what if, because I don't think it's those guys at the top of the draft that is the big what if in 2020. I think it's, should they have traded up to 25 and taken Jordan Love?
And again, to add to that, James, 26 overall is where Love went.
Right.
The Colts had 13 overall originally. So, to Joel's point, I guess, Joel, so in this scenario, this is interesting. Joel, you're saying you still trade 13 for Buckner, but then you come up from round 2, which they were 34 and I want to say 46. Therefore, you'd be removing Michael Pittman Jr. or Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is if I think back to that first round, if I remember right, it was full of quarterback needy teams, and so finding a trade partner to get up to the point where you could get Herbert or Tagovailoa was maybe a little more unrealistic. I could be wrong. That's how I remember it, and I don't know if some of those teams up there just desperately needed a quarterback. Now, if you move heaven and earth to get Joe Burrow, that's Joe Burrow, but going from 13 to 1 is probably unlikely as well. So my thinking is, even if you think back to that draft night, as we got to the end of the first round, there was a lot of talk. The Packers traded up because they thought the Colts were going to take Jordan Love. Now, that wasn't the case. They weren't necessarily going to take Jordan Love. But let me give you a scenario. You're sitting there, instead of not being in on Jordan Love, you already have Phillip Rivers there. We know Love needed to sit. You have Phillip Rivers there. It's supposed to be for 2 years. And you make the decision to move up knowing that you're going to sit Jordan Love for 2 years behind Phillip Rivers. I don't know if Phillip Rivers retires or not. He did retire, but can you convince him? Okay, well, this is the kid. You get 2 years, then we're gonna develop him, and then he's gonna go in after you. And you give up Michael Pittman, obviously a very productive player for this franchise, but that to me is really, like, of all the what if scenarios quarterback wise, I think the only other one that really gets me going as much is whether or not they've been able to sign Matthew Stafford. But that's the thing is with this draft, you could have gone up, gotten Jordan Love, and sat him the way the Packers did. And what does the franchise look like if you did that?
Again, that is the voice of Joey Erickson, Colts reporter for Indy Star. Does a great job on the beat, and I'll see him a week from today. We'll be out there at Grant Park to hear from a few players as well as Chris Ballard, the Colts GM. Joel, the question I threw at Kevin earlier, and I'll throw at you now, is for me, kind of like the outsider coming in and kind of catching up to the happenings here in Indianapolis. How much louder did the conversation get about you should have drafted a quarterback after you had Phillip Rivers for a year, you had success, and then he was gone? Like, did that maybe change the narrative here? Because I could see in the moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, you feeling like you being Chris Ballard or the front office, oh, we got it right because we got Phillip Rivers, we got DeForest Buckner, we made the playoffs, we got Jonathan Taylor, we got Michael Pittman Jr., but then our quarterback left after a year.
Yeah, the big thing that off season was the off season that Stafford was available, and the idea of Stafford coming into this team that was already a playoff team, was one that really, really, I think interested a lot of people. I think I remember writing the Colts should try to go get him. That story is somewhere on the internet, but I don't remember. What's the 2021 draft class off the top of my head? I looked at 2020 before this. I didn't look at 2021.
Is that Quiddy and Dio?
Well, quarterback-wise, what was it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. Those are all first-round quarterbacks.
There was a time when I remember there were a couple years there where there was certain corners of the Colts fan base and stuff that wondered, what if they'd stuck around and hung around for Justin Fields or found a way to draft Justin Fields. That one, to me, the drafting in there, like, you just look at that class, that's not a great – that one didn't really pan out, just outside of the top one. So that one, I don't remember if it was – the thing I remember from that offseason is they were so good the year before. There were stretches where they looked like – with Rivers, there were stretches where they looked like a significant AFC contender. And even in the Bills playoff game, they were right in that game up until the end. And I remember that the big question that offseason was, should the Colts go get Stafford? Or also Derek Carr. There was a lot of Derek Carr talk that offseason. And the idea that offseason after Rivers was more about, we have this team. Is there a veteran quarterback we can add who's younger, who can replicate what Rivers did or take it to the next level?
You think simply, Joel, and again, Joel Erickson from the Star is with us here. Do you think simply it boiled down to we still feel like we have a playoff caliber roster? Maybe some of the shock of Luck doing what he did played into kind of the emotional, we're not going to reset in any way, shape, or form. We're going to try to Band-Aid it. Do you think that was the prevalent thought there? Because to me, in a way, Joel, it differs a little bit from Ballard's. I've always thought Ballard has had a rather long-term view of things, not necessarily quarterback-wise, but for the most part, he's had kind of a long-term view, not necessarily going to rush to make these kind of drastic moves. Do you think that was the thought process in saying, you know what, we're going to try and just Band-Aid it here because we still feel like we've got something off of the 2018 playoff team?
I think the biggest thing coming off of I just don't think that they fell in love with any of the quarterbacks that were available to them. You know, they everybody loved Burrow, but everybody also knew that Burrow was if everybody loves Burrow, he's not going anywhere. But you know, they never. Remember, there was a lot of conversation there for a long time about I'm not going to take one unless it's the right one, just to get you all off my back. I think is the quote. Some version of that is the quote. And I just don't think they ever got comfortable enough with one of the quarterbacks that was available where they were picking to pull that trigger. That to me is why the Love one really sticks out. It really is the Jordan Love idea is really the one that sticks out the most to me, just because yes, you know, you have some misgivings on him, you're not sure, but you also had time. You had just signed Phillip Rivers. You had time to work with him and get some stuff out of him and figure him out the way the Packers did. You know, so that to me is this what if this particular off season is the one that gets me the most, because yeah, you didn't fall in love with him right away, but you didn't have to fall in love with him for right away. You could fall in love with what he could be.
Gosh, I should have used that line on some girls.
You
back
can
in the
fall
day.
in love with what he could be.
I know.
Baby, you see me now.
I know.
But just give me about,
Right,
2 years. I'm
right.
really about to be
I'm a
on.
future investment. I'm a forward-thinking investment here. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's noted, Joe. Well, yeah.
Yeah, see, I got to write that down for the future, Joe. Okay.
James taking notes over here.
Yeah, I'm like, look, you ain't know me when I wasn't the sports writer of the year. Things have changed now.
Yeah, now you're knocking on my door at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
here.
I don't know you now.
Joel A. Erickson, his brain perfect for today's What If. Joel, we thank you so much. Please spend time with the family here, and we'll see you a week from today.
Oh, you bet. I am looking at the Gulf right now. I am in Navarre Beach, Florida.
Look at that.
What a life.
Look at that. Joel, soak up the water. Thank you for making time with us on vacation. We greatly appreciate it. And congrats to your Brewers.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Joel A. Erickson from the start. I like that from Joel. Buckner, and then you move one of those second rounders. That's kind of an interesting thought, because you go two ways here. I thought, do you just sit there at 13, either take the quarterback right there or trade back,
right,
and get the QB? So that's interesting. And I guess just to cover quickly, succinctly, the three quarterbacks that we've mentioned here, I'll let you do Hurts. What I recall about Stafford, Ballard just wasn't a huge fan. I think that's fair, playing into it, because that's Stafford. As far as Love was concerned, I just think the quarterback character standard, they thought about it. They did some intense research on him, but they just weren't fully sold on that aspect to him. And again, there were definitely maturation questions about Love at Utah State.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that hurt that. And then I know you've mentioned Hurts before in some stories.
Yeah, Hurts, according to our reporting, this was about 2 years ago at this point, but basically Ballard was a fan of his. It just was a matter of not being aggressive enough to perhaps move up to get him or just take him with one of your second-round picks.
We've got a box to open up. We'll do that to close out the show.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Well, thank you to Warren Sharp, who joined us earlier. NFL reporter, just extensive research he's got on the upcoming season, and he shared a lot of Colts tidbits with us, 9 o'clock hour. I think you'll enjoy that convo. We'll get into some of those coming up tomorrow. I've got a box to open up, boys. Do you guys know what this is?
I know what it is, but I don't think Mark knows what it is.
Really? Mark doesn't? I thought Mark
was he here for that show?
I thought Mark was the one making fun of me for it.
Oh, he was making fun of you for it.
I'm trying to remember.
That's many
now.
things, though. That's
Listener
many things.
Zach,
I was gonna say, you have to be more specific.
Listener Zach sent this in, and if I'm looking, I think it might be necessary today here. Well,
should we bring those out to training camp?
These could be huge for training camp. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know if I've ever had one of these, to be honest with you.
Mark, I think you should probably be able to guess now, right?
I think I have a hunch.
Kind of a very packed box, to be honest with you.
How many
some
did you
grade
order?
A packaging right here. KB's got to use some muscle.
Oh, man. Boy, I got a lot to open up here.
Oh, boy.
Shout out to Zach. Thank you here. Silica. Boy, I mean, each of us could be having a box to go home.
Oh.
Now,
this is Christmas in July, baby.
This is true old. You know, this is when you're getting old here. These are sweat towels, boys.
Oh.
Sweat towels.
Oh, yeah.
How about that? Look at that. Shower in a bag, Mark.
Shower in a bag?
Is that what it says, or did you say that out loud?
Say no more. Citrus flavor. Would you like one?
I would like one.
Sure.
I'm gonna come in here smelling real good soon.
Lavender. I think James Boyd, little lavender action here.
Ooh, you see this? Yeah.
With that and with Joel Erickson's bars, James Boyd's gonna be having a long line outside the apartment here.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Man. Thank you,
To
Zach,
be clear,
for
I have
this.
showered before this, but no excuses now. Don't come in here smelling any kind of smell, KB.
Look at these things. These things are nice. I wonder if there are any other flavors here. Oh, tea tree, peppermint. Oh,
Mark,
my
you're going to
gosh.
need a couple of these showers in the bag after you get done with that Taco Bell.
Oh, you know it.
Now, Mark, are you an unscented? Or do you want tea tree or peppermint?
Oh,
Citrus?
whatever you don't want, I'll take.
Well, Lord knows I need it all.
Then have at it.
Oh, this is great, man. I got to open up
Now,
the
who
other box.
must I thank for this?
This is listener Zach. Reached out here.
Listener Zach, thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, Silica, the company here. And Zach got these. This is when I was complaining about the heat. Remember that? You know, I was saying that I'm fine with sweating. I have no issue sweating. I got issues when I go into the grocery and then I come outside, I'm sweating. I got issues when I'm taking the kids to the library. And then all of a sudden I come out and I'm sweating here. So when the summer heat rises, James Boyd, you won't judge me if I rock this at Grand Park, will you?
No, I'm reading the directions right now.
Now, one time at Grand Park, Jake Query wore a Snuggie.
Yes.
Well, I told you I'm Team Snuggie.
Are you a sweat towel guy, Jake? I mean, you got to have. Hey, honestly, Jake, Sunday, Brickyard, turn 3. Here you go.
You might need these.
This is, I will say, this is key racetrack stuff for certain.
Take one. Take one.
All right.
You want flavor or you want unscented?
I mean, I have a
I was gonna say, he got every scent in the world. Have you smelled the guy when he walks in here?
Well, time out. Have you
I
seen
am
his
the
cologne?
definition
That's
of
what I'm
clean.
saying.
Listen, you know what I am? I'm spring in human form.
Oh, see, that's a bar right there. Write that down, James. Write that down.
Dear Lord.
I am
Dear
spring.
Lord.
in
Between
human
Jake and Joel, I'm gonna have all the bars for all the ladies.
That's one of the biggest ego comments that I've heard in a while. Listener Zach, thank you for that here. I'm going to be rocking those on my neck. Back of the
You
neck.
know what, James?
Grand
You could
Park.
use this when you go into that bar because it says right here, "Go get dirty."
Oh,
That's what it says.
okay.
Yeah,
All right, all right.
With your citrus scent, right?
Jake's got you covered 10-1 today. A reminder, nothing fever-wise. James will be out there at practice, but they've got their last game for the All-Star break coming up tomorrow. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Jake Query.